My entitled parents demand that I pay for their rent despite the fact that I moved out of their house as fast as possible because they were literally the worst parents on planet Earth. Things are now so bad that my mom's entire side of the family is saying that they're going to cut me out of their lives if I don't give my parents money for rent, leaving me in a situation that I honestly never thought I'd ever be in because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old female and I moved out of my parents' house a little while ago as soon as I could. To provide some context, my parents were both emotionally awful towards me, and they have wronged me many times in my life, including threatening to get rid of my dog, which is an entirely different story in and of itself. Since I moved out, I've been working a job and paying rent for an apartment that I share with my friend, and I've had enough money left to save up a bit to go to college in a few years. I am the youngest in the family, so after I moved out, no one was left at home because both my siblings moved out as well. So their financial support from my brother paying them rent for his bedroom has also been cut off. I'm also completely independent, and I've told my parents multiple times that I want nothing to do with them, and I've even blocked their numbers completely. Now, with that bit of context out of the way, this is where things get really tricky. Earlier this week, my grandmother called me and explained that my parents desperately need money for rent and asked me if I could spare some money from my college savings, which I saved up on my own so far, by the way, just to help them out. When I heard this, I outright refused, and I told my grandmother I would not be helping at all since every penny in my savings is gathered by me working hard and supporting myself. I love my grandmother, and I told her that if she needed help herself, I was willing to help out, but I would not help my parents under any circumstances. Well, for this entire week, my aunt has been calling me repeatedly, saying that my parents really needed this and deserved it for raising me. In fact, my mom's entire side of the family has said they would cut me off if I didn't help them out, which is honestly just so petty, because seriously, I'm only 18 years old. They should be the ones stepping up and helping instead, not me. I told my friend about it, and she said that I was taking it too far and that apparently I should have helped them out. So now I feel like I'm going crazy, and I'm honestly wondering, am I the jerk for not wanting to help them out, especially for the way they treated me growing up? Because at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, first things first, no, you're not the jerk for not helping out your parents. All of the adults in the room who are saying, wow, you need to help your parents out. They deserve it. They raised you. I mean, come on. Like every single one of those people, from your grandparents to your aunt to your mom's entire side of the family, like all of them are crazy, and I would disregard anything they ever say to you, because this is nuts. You mean to tell me that the 18-year-old who just moved out from their awful house is now financially responsible for the rent of their parents' house? Like, I'm sorry, someone please make this make sense, because this is some crazy talk. Under no circumstances are you ever responsible for that. Like, honestly, if your parents were at least a little bit decent towards you, I'm sure this situation would have been a lot different. I'm positive you would have been like, okay, I'm gonna help you out, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that you're taken care of. But the fact of the matter is that your parents sucked growing up. So why should you be expected to be like dragged back into that? Like, dude, what's going on right now? So no, you're not obligated to give anybody money. Your parents are clearly deadbeats, and their entire family are deadbeats as well. Especially with them being like, oh, we're gonna cut you out of the family if you don't give them money. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is not making any sense. Because if they really cared, they would step up and do something about this, instead of badgering the teenager about helping their parents out, who, by the way, were not very good parents to begin with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My friend got super pissed off at me when I decided not to lend them more money after they literally still owe me about $200 from the last time I gave them money. And right now, I'm honestly blown away and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. A few months ago, a close friend of mine asked to borrow $200 to cover rent. I lent it to him because I trusted him, but it's been a few months and they still have not paid me back. I brought it up a couple of times politely, but they keep brushing it off and saying they'll get it to me soon. Well, last week, they asked me to borrow another $150 for bills. But I straight up told them I wasn't comfortable lending them more money until they paid back what they already owed. I tried to explain it in a kind way and even offered to help them figure out a way to manage their finances, but I couldn't give them more cash. That was off the table. Well, instead of understanding, they got upset and said that I wasn't being a good friend and that after everything they've done for me, I should at least help them out again. And honestly, I'm pretty frustrated. I don't mind helping friends when I can, but I also have boundaries. And right now, I'm starting to feel like this friendship might be more about money than actual support, because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think the original poster hit the nail on the head. This really does sound like a toxic friendship where the friend is only in it for money. Like seriously, if you owe someone $200, don't come back and be like, I need more money, please. Wait, you're not gonna help me? What do you mean? Like, come on, that's so weird. Just because they're not giving you money doesn't mean they're not a good friend. Because the only bad friend in this scenario is the person asking for more money after not paying back what they already owe. Like, that's super toxic, and in my opinion, it kind of absolves you of any guilt, because this person is 100% in the wrong. Am I the jerk for always asking my barber to make adjustments after my haircut, as they never seem to get it exactly how I wanted? Because after this last time, I actually got banned from the barber shop I was going to, and at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm looking to get this off my chest because it was quite upsetting for me. For context, I'm a musician, and I mostly do weddings, and since people are always taking pictures of me and I want to look good on my social media, I find it important that my hair looks good and even. I don't tell this to my barber or any barber I go to because I don't want to come off as snobby or pretentious, but if I notice that something is uneven, I will respectfully ask to make adjustments. For some reason, this is always the case after every haircut, but usually I just point it out, it gets adjusted, and everything's fine. Then I pay and tip them, and I come back the next month. And honestly, I've never had an issue. I've also been going to this same barber for about 3 years now. I am Filipino and Chinese, and I've had a hard time finding someone who could cut my hair right for some reason. This barber's Filipino, and I've always been very happy walking out. I thought we were cool too because we were both Filipino. I mean, I would even give this guy gifts every Christmas. And this was a guy that I really felt like I could trust. Well, today I had the haircut done, and then I asked if the shape of my temples could be matched because one side was pointy and the other side was rounded. Now, granted, this has happened before, and everything has always been good after making a small cut. I also, as always, tried to be as respectful as possible. But for some reason, today my barber says to me, "You always ask to do this. You can't expect everything to be perfectly even. The ears, eyes, face, and head shape for everyone is always uneven. You need to get a different barber to cut your hair. Do not come back." Now, he didn't yell at me, but it was really in a nasty tone that I've honestly never heard him do before. And honestly, I really just don't know where this came from, because never did I ever get the idea that he was annoyed by something like that. I would always try to be respectful. I would even pay extra money if I could just to make things right. I was so caught off guard that I just said, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, thank you." And then I paid him and I tipped him and I left as fast as I could. But is it too much to ask for an even haircut? I vetted about this to a friend and he recommended that I just say I'll pay more if I have to just to make things right. And normally I would be fine saying that, but after what the barber said, I don't feel comfortable trusting him ever again. I mean, he's the one holding the clipper and he could very easily ruin me with a bad haircut. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, first off, I want to say no, you're not the jerk, but also I kind of see where the barber's coming from. Like if I had a client who came in and complained every single time they got a haircut, like at the end of the appointment, I've got someone else coming in and you're sitting there saying, "Oh, this is uneven, you need to fix it." And you do that every single time. Like, I don't know, I would probably be pretty fed up as well. Like, I'm not saying what the barber did was right, but I do kind of see where he's coming from to a certain extent. Now, do I think you should have been kicked out by this guy? No, absolutely not. It doesn't sound like you were rude about it. It really seems like you were respectful and all that stuff, so I think this really did kind of come out of nowhere. But it also kind of makes me think that this guy has really not wanted you around for a while, and this was like the perfect opportunity for him to be like, "Okay, don't come back." So in my opinion, I would absolutely find someone else. If you've got someone cutting your hair that doesn't like you, then dude, like run for the hills. There's no point in being like, "Oh, please take me back. I'll pay extra. Don't worry about it." Like, that's not worth it in my opinion, because clearly this guy just doesn't like you. And I seriously don't think that's a problem with you, but much rather a problem with the barber. Am I the jerk for being upset with my friends after they blatantly left me behind on our trip? Here's what's happening. Okay, so my friends and I have been planning this trip for weeks. We had a group chat, we picked the spots, and even agreed to carpool so that nobody would be left out. I was so excited because I don't travel often, and this was supposed to be a chance to relax and bond with everyone. Well, the night before, they suddenly mentioned they were bringing someone new along who was a girl that I've never met before. I didn't really care at first, but it threw me off because the car was already full. I then asked if it would be okay space-wise, and they said it would work out. The next morning, I showed up at the meeting spot right on time with my bag packed, and it's here that I found out the car was already gone. I tried calling and texting, but I got no answer. Hours later, I finally got a message saying they left because there wasn't enough room anymore, and that I'd understand once I met this new person. Well, to put it lightly, I honestly felt crushed. Not only did they leave me behind without even talking to me about it, but they prioritized someone brand new over a friend they've known for years. I love them, but this honestly was just too much. So seriously, am I the jerk for feeling this sense of like huge betrayal right now? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, dude, this is really crazy. These people are not your friends. The second they left without you is the second they said, oh yeah, you're not our friend anymore. We're gonna take this new person. You'll understand, right? It's like, no, you do not have to understand. And you don't have to take this sitting down. Like, this is a huge betrayal. You have every right to be upset. Like, are you kidding me right now? So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and honestly, I would find some new friends, because these people absolutely suck. My mother-in-law secretly got our child an iPhone without my express permission, and I just now found out that my daughter's been using this phone for over 9 months. And at this point, I'm honestly kind of freaked out, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that we are strongly in the no cell phone until high school camp for our daughter, and we have made that adamantly clear to our entire extended family. Well, we just found out that my mother-in-law purchased an iPhone for our daughter 9 months ago, and at the time, she was only 10 years old. She literally did this behind our backs, clearly without our permission. Obviously, this involved making an agreement with our 10-year-old to keep this a secret and lie to both of her parents. And the icing on top is that the phone was not monitored whatsoever, and it had no parental controls. The phone was kept in my mother-in-law's house, and our daughter was using it when she visited her, which was frequently because my mother-in-law lives right down the street. The only reason we found out was due to another parent reaching out to me about a concern related to my daughter and her daughter texting each other, which of course I wasn't aware of. And I'm honestly not sure how long this would have went on otherwise. Obviously, I am furious, I feel blindsided, and I am so angry. My mother-in-law has otherwise always been a very involved, helpful, and wonderful grandparent. We trusted her and never would have expected her to be capable of such deceit. But I'm curious what other parents would do in this position. I know what I'm leaning towards doing, but I wanted to gauge other people's responses because I'm honestly not sure if I'm overreacting here. Okay, if there's any rule in life that I can possibly articulate on this channel, it is this one simple rule. You do not mess with other people's kids. You don't try to make them lie to their parents. You don't try to have secrets with them that their parents don't know about. You don't do anything of that nature. That is creepy and that's weird. And the fact that your mother-in-law decided, oh yeah, we're gonna get you a phone and just don't tell your mom about it. You can only use it when you're at my house. It'll be our little secret. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's really creepy, and that would be an instant route to never seeing that kid ever again. This is a 10-year-old we're talking about, dude. They're 10. You can't just sit there and be like, let's keep a secret between you and me. Your mom doesn't need to know. Here's a phone. Dude, that's crazy. That's absolutely inappropriate. And no, you're not overreacting, because this is a situation where you absolutely should be freaking out and saying absolutely not, never again, especially since it involves your 10-year-old daughter. Am I overreacting about my boyfriend wanting to take my car for his work trip that literally will have him driving for about 10 hours round trip? Because I know for a fact he can take a company car no problem, and yet still he wants to take my car instead, which is now making me question pretty much everything about this entire situation. Here's what's going on. So my boyfriend and his buddy are going on a work trip. They work at the same office together, and it is about a 5-hour drive each way, so 10 hours round trip in total. Instead of using a company car, which does exist, or a paid-for rental car, which is also an option, they wanted to take my car or my friend's car because we have SUVs. For reference, the guys have a truck, and the truck gets bad gas mileage, and it's apparently just way too small for them. And I guess combined with them and the luggage and golf clubs, it just would not be enough room. So the car that's in my name that I make the payments on and that I rely on, they want to take. Now, neither I nor the other guy's wife get to go, and we basically don't get to benefit from this trip at all. But somehow it's fine for one of the wifey's cars to rack up the miles. I mean, seriously, make it all make sense. Well, when they came to me, I said no, because I don't want the extra wear and tear. And suddenly, I'm the bad guy in this situation. Why is the default plan to risk my car instead of a work vehicle for a work trip? So seriously, internet, please tell me, am I overreacting here? Or is this actually as ridiculous as it all feels? Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest here, I really don't think this is a work trip, and some of the other people in the comments section have pointed this out as well. I understand you'll do fun things on a work trip, and it does make sense that you might bring golf clubs because that is kind of common, but why on earth would they not go with a work vehicle instead of yours? The only rationale in my head is that, oh, they don't want to take a work car because guess what? This isn't a work trip, it's a friend's trip. Maybe they're not being completely truthful about why they want your car. Because in my head, I'm right there with you. If you're going on a work trip, why not just use the work car and wear that thing out? Why on earth would you ever want your car subjected to a 10-hour drive that you can't control? Especially if it's under your name. Dude, I'd be losing my mind if that was me. So no, you're not overreacting here. This really is kind of weird because there is no good reason for them to take your car. My boyfriend disinvited me from a trip we had planned together that would last for over a month. And now I'm honestly not sure how to fix this or how to move forward in our relationship. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my boyfriend boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years, and he's been planning a month-long trip to Bali for basically his whole life. Originally, he always pictured himself going alone, but after we got serious, he invited me to come along with him. At first, he seemed genuinely excited for me to join, and I was excited too. Now, I will say the timing was stressful for me. I had to jump through a ton of hoops at work to get a month off. I also bought my plane ticket, which was $1,400. I mean, I've been doing everything to make this work. Then a couple weeks ago, he told me all of a sudden that he doesn't want me to come anymore. He said the trip was becoming too stressful with me involved, that he needs to do this alone to find himself, and that if he doesn't go solo, he'll resent me forever. He even admitted that either I'll resent him for leaving me behind, or he'll resent me for keeping him from this trip. Now, here's where it gets even harder. He knows that what he's doing is really messed up. He's told me that if he could go back in time, he never would have invited me in the first place, just so this plan could have all been avoided. He admits he's in the wrong and he knows how badly he's hurt me, but even then, he's still choosing to go without me. He did at least get my ticket refunded, and even though it wasn't fully reimbursed, he's giving me the full $1,400 back. But that doesn't erase how devastated I feel. I told him I would try to get over it, that I would be the one to carry the resentment if I had to, but every time I think about him going, my heart just breaks all over again. The thought of him experiencing all these incredible things without me crushes me. I don't want to see pictures when he gets back. I don't want to hear about the stories he's gonna have, because all I'll be thinking is, oh, he wanted to live that dream without me. He says he wants to work through this, and I do too, but I just don't know how to. He's been through a really hard life. He works constantly, and he says this is finally his turn to enjoy something for himself. Now, I understand that deeply, I really do, but I wish he could also see how deeply hurtful it is to me, and how much I sacrificed to make this trip possible. When he asks me how I'm doing, I usually just respond by saying, well, how would you be doing in this situation? And he'll say to me, yeah, that's valid, sorry for asking. And to me, that shows that he knows how wrong this is, but he's still going to do it anyways. So here I am. I don't know what to do, and I just don't know how to process this, or if this is something a relationship can even survive. Part of me understands his reasons, but another part feels completely discarded. So am I in the wrong for feeling so hurt? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest, I don't think your boyfriend likes you. It sounds like your boyfriend saw that you were like struggling to make this trip work, and instead of stepping up and being like, okay, how can I help? How can I make this burden a little bit lighter for you? He says, oh my gosh, I do not want to deal with this. You're making my trip way too stressful. You know what, if I could go back in time, I would not have even invited you in the first place. But don't worry, we can work through this. Like seriously, do you hear how this guy's acting and like the things he's saying? Because this is crazy. He clearly doesn't care about you, otherwise he would have been like, yeah, let's make this work. And really, let's think about this for a second. What is he planning on doing for a month on this trip? Like, why does he need to run off for a month and be like, I'm sorry, I just need to find myself? It's like, no, you need to find like a relationship where you care about the other person, because this guy does not care about the original poster at all. So I'm sorry this happened, but in my opinion, I think you can do way better than this guy, because based on what you've shared with us, it doesn't seem like he's a good boyfriend in the slightest. My job has literally not paid me properly in weeks, as I'm missing tips from my restaurant job for a few shifts that are just not getting resolved. And even though my manager is reassuring me that they're gonna figure it out, even still, weeks later, nothing has ever changed. And at this point, I'm getting frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I just started serving at a new place in mid-August here in California. And this is all after being out of the industry for a while. And this is a cool, independently owned spot, which is in spite of some of the people that I work with who are just incredibly rude. But here is the thing that really has me worried. I have not gotten my tips from all of the shifts that I've worked. In fact, out of the 4 non-training shifts I've worked, I've only gotten my tips maybe one time. The least recent one that I'm missing is from like 2.5 weeks ago, and this past Sunday was the most recent one. Now, my manager explained that we're supposed to get them in our mobile app the next day at the very least, so I'm honestly really confused. Like, this isn't one of those places where it goes into our paychecks. Also, speaking of that, I still haven't gotten my first paycheck, but this could be due to me starting at a weird time. I'm honestly not really sure. I told my manager that I hadn't gotten them, and he told me to send a picture of my checkout to remind him. Well, I did just that, and yet still I have no money coming in. I came in Sunday for my shift and I reminded him once again, and he promised to get right on it. It's now Tuesday and I still don't have any of my tip money. After tip out, it's at least $300 that they owe me now in credit card tips. There's another girl who started the same time as me who's in the exact same boat, and I'm fairly confident that this is not going on with the people people who have been there longer than us. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, the general manager has a lot on his plate, but honestly, at this point, I'm losing my patience. And it's kind of sketchy that I'm getting empty promises. I've only been having my cash tips essentially, and I'm so thankful I have another job, because if not, I would be completely screwed. It also feels like I shouldn't have to remind them multiple times to give me my money. I've never been in this position before out of any of my restaurant jobs. So seriously, has anyone been in this situation? I am almost 100% sure that I will end up quitting pretty soon. The money is great whenever I get paid, and I would hate quitting so early because it really is a cool place, but I'm losing my patience and it seems like they're in no rush to give me my money. What should I do? Okay, first of all, this is crazy and you don't deserve this in the slightest. Like, there's no excuse for them not paying you on time. And the fact that they're not paying you properly and giving you your tips, in my opinion, means that there's some kind of shady business going on. And legitimately, there's no good excuse. Like, there's nothing they can say that would make me be like, oh yeah, that's why they're doing it that way. Oh, now it makes sense. My bad, never mind. Like, what are you talking about? No, that's not okay in the slightest. You need to get paid during the pay period, and that's that. Especially when it comes to your tips. It also kind of seems like they're waffling about and not taking this seriously, because dude, what in the world is going on? If I was a manager, this would be like the first thing I would take care of. I'd be like, wait a second, you're not getting paid properly? Let me drop everything that I'm doing and take care of this because this is wage theft. So in my opinion, it kind of seems like they're stringing you along, and if this really is the case, they absolutely need to be reported. And on top of that, you need to take screenshots of everything you've ever done and possibly get copies of like the credit card tips that you've gotten in the past. Because if there really is some shady business happening here that I really hope isn't the case, then you will want all the evidence in the world that these people are essentially trying to screw you over, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My children are gaslighting my husband into thinking that I'm cheating on him with someone online, and I'm not sure what to do about it. So my marriage has been having some issues lately. Well, for the past 3 years to be exact. Eventually, I just quit nagging him, or even asking him to help me more with anything, or even just to discuss anything outside of happy, basic conversations, because if it was anything other than that, it would always end in a fight. So I play video games and so does my husband. He raids at least 3 days a week and is on chat almost 6 days or more a week, while spending time with people on Discord for about 4 hours. Also, he plays games with friends he knows in real life. I have some friends too I game with, and we all know each other in real life, but because hanging out isn't feasible, mostly because my husband's jealous about men and women being alone together, we don't ever really get together. I've tried getting all my friends to come over to my house, both guys and girls, with my husband, to maybe play cards or to eat dinner and stuff, but nobody ever really wants to. So about 4 of us go online and we play some games and play a few rounds. Sometimes I play with someone one-on-one out of the 4, but I don't let it affect my family life, my parenting, or my chores. I try to limit my gaming to maybe 3 times a week for only a few hours, and only when it's late at night so that I've spent time with everyone. Last night I was playing one of my games with my friends, and my 8-year-old comes up behind me and in front of the entire family says, "Such and such is going to be our new daddy soon." And such in this situation is the friend in which I'm playing a game with, whom this child has never met or even heard of. My husband and I froze when she said this, and all the air sucked out of the room. I have never ever said or implied anything of the sort. My friends are my friends, and that's it. I also would never talk like that to my kids. I would never joke about someone else taking the place of their dad or anything like that. Of course, my husband, who is already super insecure, turned around and said, "Yes, child, tell me how you know this." I guess he was trying to inquire and figure out what was going on. And my daughter just said, "Nah, I don't know, I just said words." She's done this before, telling the family I was going to meet some man from school down the road and that it was a secret. We were all like, what are you talking about? And then she admitted she meant her sister was meeting a boy from school, which my husband and I already knew about. Why is my child doing this? My husband, of course, can't play it off as a joke, and so the passive-aggressive remarks started that day. So I was in the shower and he came in and said, "Getting all pretty for the kid's new daddy?" I looked at him and said, "Yep." I personally just said yes to that comment so that I could agree that what he was saying did indeed sound ridiculous. We went to bed and he asked me again, "So, are you telling the kids that your guy friend might be their new dad one day?" I told him absolutely not, but my husband is still convinced that she had to have heard it from somewhere. And honestly, I have no idea how or why she'd even say that. I have plenty of friends, guys and girls. house. I go and hang out with my girlfriend too solo, to which the family jokes, I'm taking her on a date, let's go. And it's never really an issue or anything that they take seriously. So anyways, after I told him no, he then proceeds to say, well, it's okay. Our oldest daughter said if you ever did divorce me, that she'll act up really badly so no boyfriend would ever want me. And he said this in a mean, vindictive, and a sarcastic tone. There's a lot more passive-aggressive stuff than just this, but I think he's filling the kids' heads with ideas about this stuff. No one bats an eye when he talks about a girl from work or the millions of people he plays with on Discord. And by the way, some of those are girls, and yes, some of those are guys though. This is just a really sticky situation and I don't know what to do about it. First off, I think it's really ridiculous how your husband is being so overdramatic over this. Like, obviously it's proven that this kid is just gonna lie and say whatever comes to their head. Like, you have even described a specific situation where your daughter has made something up specifically about you, only to then find out that it's actually about her sister. So like, I don't understand why this husband is taking what their kid said with such truth behind it, because clearly this kid is just lying and saying stuff just for the heck of it. So even with that in mind, I can confidently say that the husband is the problem in this situation. The way he's acting and the way he's talking about you to your kids as well is really not okay. The original poster goes on to say how there's been a lot more comments like this lately, and she's convinced that it's her mother-in-law as well as her husband that's giving her kids these ideas, that she for whatever reason wants to get a divorce from her husband, which is honestly just ridiculous. In my opinion, if you weaponize your kids against your spouse, you are a terrible person, because filling their heads with ideas like this is not fair, and you're only harming them as well as your spouse. I think the way your husband is acting is absolutely awful, and it's not your fault. He is clearly super insecure, and he's not only being toxic, but he's throwing away probably the one good thing in his life, which is you, by the way. Overall, this is a really messy situation, and if you want to try to make this work, therapy is definitely going to be needed, because it's going to be hard to live your life if your husband thinks at every drop of a hat that you're trying to cheat on him, even though you've shown repeatedly that that's not what you're trying to do. A creepy doctor at the hospital is making me incredibly uncomfortable, and I'm too scared to report it. My mom just got heart surgery. She has been sick for a long time, and I'm no stranger to spending a lot of time at hospitals. She's currently in post-surgery ICU. My grandma stays here during the day, and I spend the night at the hospital. My grandma and my aunt mentioned a doctor they befriended who has been giving them more info about my mom and stuff. Anyway, I met him today and he took me in to see my mom from a distance. The second we got out of sight of my family members, he took my hand. He did not ask for permission and he's a stranger to me. I do not know this man. He starts asking me personal questions, offers favors, etc. At one point, he took me to a private room, hugged me without asking, pressured me to give him private information about my life, even though he already knew some stuff because my aunt and my grandma told him. I didn't know what to do, so I just talked, and he just kept hugging me and kissed my cheek. I was very clearly unbelievably uncomfortable. When my aunt and my grandma left and my dad went to get me dinner, I decided to tell this doctor that I was a bit uncomfortable and that I'm not very keen on physical touch, which is true. He got very mad that I implied he might have ulterior motives, with his face getting a very disgusted expression, saying that he didn't like me that way and that he was just trying to be nice. I got nervous and I just apologized a lot. He then insisted to take me to McDonald's, and I didn't know what to do, so I just said yes. On the way there, he kept talking about us becoming friends and how he's gonna take me places and go visit me to my house. I just went along with it because I didn't want to fight. He even offered me staying at a couch instead of an uncomfortable chair in front of the ICU, and I said yes. He took me there and kept hugging me and stuff. When he left, I left too because I didn't feel safe. I'm back at the waiting room and I'm freaking out a little bit. I talked to my aunt and she agreed he was too friendly, told me to call her at any hour in case something happens, and to not go anywhere private with him. I'm so tired. I think he's targeting me because it's very clear I'm in a very vulnerable position. I have to stay here for 2 more nights, and I don't know what to do. I'm not from the US, I'm from a very conservative country in the Caribbean, and I don't know if I can report this, or if it's safe to do so. He's my mom's doctor. I don't want to get on his bad side. What if I say something and someone else tells him and he goes off on me? Or even my mom. He's extremely pushy and I don't think I can avoid him. I just want to go back home. I'm tired and very sleep deprived. What should I do? You need to learn how to say no. The way he's advancing on you and making comments and hugging you and kissing you is absolutely repulsive. It's not like this guy is going to go in there and undo your mom's heart surgery. You need to report him. He will continue to take advantage of your young, vulnerable state if you don't. You can't stop him, and it starts with saying something. I completely understand where you're coming from, from where you're afraid of saying anything and you're afraid of reporting them, but it is absolutely necessary for you to say something. People like this will continue to get away with their sketchy behavior if you let them. And some man that you've never met in your life kissing you and giving you hugs and taking you places and suggesting that you spend time with him and that you should be friends is just weird. So yeah, report this guy and get away from him. Otherwise, he's just going to keep taking advantage of you and he's just going to keep making advances. I confessed to my girlfriend that I want to start taking antidepressants, and it did not go well. For some background context, it's been a challenging relationship with my own share of issues, as well as some concerns and mistakes over the past 3 years. But there's a core love that just keeps us going. So for the past few months, I felt particularly low. When I explained it to her, I usually mention it's a flurry of professional challenges that I've faced. As a note, I earn more money than my girlfriend, and I cover the vast majority of expenses, including the rent. I've recently told her more honestly that a big contributing factor is the way that she's been communicating with me. For example, she'll criticize me for sleeping in after a very long flight because I may be lazy, or that I have so much potential and that I'm a failure for not meeting it. Sometimes she will even say that there must be something wrong with me if I can't achieve my dreams. I am a very ambitious person, and while I'm certainly hardworking, some of my professional goals are taking longer to achieve than I expected, but it doesn't make me want to give up. This has culminated also to the point where I really feel worthless, even to the point where I don't even want to look at myself in the mirror. I was trying on a new piece of clothing the other day with her, and we looked at the mirror. I was there only for a second, as I said that I really don't like mirrors much. And her retort was immediately on the lines of, "Wow, you're such a child. How are you in your 30s?" In any case, I mentioned today that these types of comments really get me down, and I know I'm way more low than usual, and I want to start taking antidepressants. I've been seeing a therapist, and I already have a prescription for them. I'm just waiting to actually take the first pill. Her response was to say that I just wanted to pretend to be the victim and that I don't want to improve my life. I felt very unsettled by this. To be frank, she's had a more challenging background and past than I have, and her resilience and emotional strength are certainly traits I admire. However, at this point, I feel very scared to emotionally open up to her, and I really don't know how to proceed moving forward. What should I do? It honestly sounds like your girlfriend is being mentally abusive towards you. These comments definitely add up, and I can completely see where you're coming from. Like, no boyfriend or girlfriend's behavior should ever bring you to a point where you need antidepressants to put up with it. Like, this is a big red flag. I'm sure there's some kind of love in your relationship, and maybe you do like her overall, but the way she's treating you is just so bad. It honestly does not sound like she's got your best interest in mind. This is a really toxic behavior that you cannot ignore. So in my opinion, yeah, if your doctor says you should take antidepressants, I think you should listen to your doctor and do what they say. But I think you also really need to address what's causing this depressive mood. And it sounds like you've narrowed it down pretty distinctly that your girlfriend's comments are driving you to insanity. So if those can't change, and if she really can't be more empathetic towards your situation, then maybe it's time for you to move in a different direction and find somebody who does love you. Because based on what you've described, it sounds like you're paying for the rent, you're paying for the bills, and she's got a free ride. And it sounds like this might be a nice guy syndrome situation where you don't want to disturb the peace. But if you ever want to find peace personally, I think it's time for you to start asking the hard questions. And one of those is whether or not you even want to be with this lady anymore. But that's just my opinion. What would you do if you were in this guy's situation? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. My boyfriend's coworker is actively flirting with me, and I don't know what to do about this. My boyfriend and I work together. I worked at our job for a few years while he started months ago. His job title is far from mine, and we work different shifts at the place. I only see him when he's about to get off, which is how we met. We've started dating 2 months after he started. It's now been several months. Him and I don't see each other at all because I got moved to a later shift because my coworkers are all quitting. I don't get to see who he works with or anything, but I did know one guy because he came back. A few weeks ago, I was at home in the afternoon and I got a text from an unknown number. I replied and the text asked me who I was. I jokingly made up a name, but the person texted back telling me my actual name, and that really scared me. At first, I thought it was my boyfriend, so I calmed down a little bit, but the person was acting weird and started sending random text messages. So I looked up the number and it popped up a name. I knew this person, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Bobby. Bobby is not his actual name. He works with my boyfriend's shift and has been working there for years. I met Bobby when I started working there, but it was only like a playful hi-bye situation. I didn't see him for 2 years because at one point he quit. He came back last year because my boyfriend was hired. I only saw him once and it was just a hello. That was it. He and my boyfriend work together, but I don't know if they are close. Months ago, my boyfriend asked me if I knew anybody on his shift, and I mentioned Bobby. So after Bobby texted me and told my boyfriend about it, my boyfriend said said he never said anything to him about our relationship, but did ask him if he knows me. My boyfriend won't confront him because it's a work environment and we don't want anyone to know we're dating. My boyfriend did mention that Bobby has suddenly started to act really shady. So my boyfriend asked me if there was something between him and I to cause him to suddenly act like this. I can't confront him either because I work a different shift. A few days after telling my boyfriend about this, my boyfriend goes distant. Then I get a friend request from Bobby over Facebook. I finally got to ask why my boyfriend was being so distant, and he says it's because Bobby likes me. This is a really tricky situation, so I don't know what to do. This isn't an am I the jerk situation, but I will say that the girl in this situation is kind of being a jerk. This is a really simple solution. You need to tell this guy that you have a boyfriend and then stop replying to him. Like literally, if you just tell him that you are off the market, you're not interested, and you don't want to be contacted like this, it would go away pretty quickly. And also, why would you respond to a random number like that? Like just let it go. Clearly Bobby's trying to flirt with you and you need to just nip it in the butt and tell him, hey, I've got a boyfriend. You should do that and then tell your boyfriend that that's what you did, and then probably all the problems will be solved. And you don't need to give specifics. I know some workplaces are really weird about dating people that you work with and they won't allow it or you could get fired. So you don't even need to mention that it's a fellow coworker. Just say, hey, I've got a boyfriend. Stop messaging me. And that's that. Otherwise, your boyfriend is probably just going to get more distant and you're probably going to lose him if you're not careful. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. My entitled aunt left her child alone at home because apparently God was going to watch over them while she was gone. My aunt is a very religious person who loves partying, and she's constantly bashing people who don't go to church as much as she does and preaches the Bible like her. She divorced her husband after she found out he was cheating, plus he was quite abusive and had some drinking problems. But his participation in the story is basically none. He just sent the child support money and that was it. Due to unfortunate circumstances, my parents and I had to live with her and her child for about a month until we could find another place. We stayed in the garage that was halfway done, even when she had unused rooms, but that's another story. During that time, we all noticed the same behavior patterns in her. Almost every night, she went partying from 10 o'clock at night until 3 in the morning, leaving her children with us to take care of them. That doesn't sound that bad at all, right? Sounds more like an entitled aunt leaving her child with some family members to go partying. Well, the thing is, she's been doing that since before we were there, and her children were left completely alone. And in her words, she said they were being taken care of by God, and that they will be fine because God won't let anything happen to them because I go to church. Thank you. Once she left, she basically continued that behavior for another 10 years. And on top of that, she was always bringing random men in her house because she said she felt alone and she was too young to waste her life. It was a really odd situation and frankly just didn't settle well with me. Thankfully, we got out of there and found our own place. That crazy aunt sounds like a nightmare. She was leaving her kids at home in the middle of the night so that she could go partying and then claim that God was going to watch over them. I'm pretty sure that's not how it works. You know what would work? Having an actual babysitter. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all about people exercising their own faith with their own religious beliefs, but to just blindly leave your kids alone and say, no, it's okay, God's going to take care of them, is really irresponsible without doing any work to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. Like, if you want to go out partying, hire a babysitter. Like, what if one of those kids woke up in the middle of the night and they were having an asthma attack, or they were some way sick and they needed to get to the hospital? The fact that you left them in the middle of the night and you were not there to take care of them would be more than enough evidence, in my opinion, for your kids to get taken away from you. And I don't think anybody wants that. So yeah, this lady is clearly not a good person, and I don't think it's right to use your religion as an excuse to go out and just be really sketchy all night, because I don't think God would want that. My husband says he's unhappy in our marriage, and apparently it's my fault. I'm currently at a loss right now, and I need an unbiased opinion. My husband and I have been married for 10 years. We have had our typical ups and downs throughout our marriage, but have overall been happily married, raising our kids. My husband is in the military, which brings extra stressors in our life. We have moved a lot and it makes things really tricky. This has left me with taking the extra load of taking care of our kids as well as shopping. I also handle meals, dishes, laundry, cleaning, you name it. He has very little to no everyday responsibility of anything kid related. I recently started a new career and we recently moved into a fixer-upper and are slowly renovating it. He has taken a bigger role on the renovations while I take care of everything else in our lives, including learning how to fit in and balance a new career while helping with renovations when I can. My husband works so hard for us, and I'm always letting him know how much I appreciate him. All of this while never receiving that in return. My husband is very much a rigid type A personality, while I am much more easygoing. Recently, he has been getting short-tempered with me, as well as giving some serious silent treatment. He sat me down a couple of weeks ago to tell me how unhappy he is, and proceeded to accuse me of cheating, which, by the way, say, never in my life have I ever cheated on my significant other. He told me how I am untrustworthy and that I do not follow through with anything and how I'm a bad influence on our children. I of course have my faults, but never would describe myself as any of these things. He has had 2 more similar fights with me since the initial one. I'm blindsided, honestly, by all of this. I thought we were happy. How could I have been so wrong? I am now walking on eggshells in fear if I have a misstep, he will divorce me. I know all the issues he's having is all internal. Nothing in our life has significantly changed. I have asked to go see a therapist together, but he assured me that that will never happen. What should I do? I think therapy might be a really good solution, to be completely honest. And the fact that he's saying he's so unhappy but refuses to do anything on his end to try and fix the problem is a pretty big red flag. It seems like everything is being placed on you instead of any kind of blame being shared. Like maybe there's something going on behind the scenes that he's not talking to you about, maybe some other undue pressure that he's just not able to handle well, and maybe this is his way of projecting that and getting it out of his system, which is really not fair for you. But from what you've described, I don't think you've done anything wrong. Like it sounds like you're trying to make things work considering how your husband acts. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in a situation like this? Today I messed up by becoming the company's whistleblower and getting my friend fired. I work at a high-end beauty company, and in every quarter there would be a massive employee discount where you could get any of the company's products up to 90% off. It was reserved for employees and their family only, and there was no cap, so you can purchase the products however you want, as long as it's for personal use. Imagine getting a $120 product for $12. It was one of my favorite perks working there. So one day my manager set our team aside and told us that we have been losing sales. Not much, but quite noticeable. And conveniently, the loss actually occurred during the employee discount period. The management thought there was a leak where our internally discounted product got sold to consumers. Mind you, I was in my early 20s. I was a contract employee and I wanted those full-time benefits, so I wanted to impress my manager. Somehow, luck fell into my lap because one day my college friend sent me a catalog detailing our employee discount and asked me if it was legit because the price was outrageously cheap. My college friend said that she got it from a friend's friend. The catalog was supposed to be an internal document, so I felt like I could win management over by telling them about this. So I reported it to my HR director, and she told me to bait the seller. I asked my sister to contact the seller and bought the most outrageous products, all of which for the HR team to track the system and see which employee bought it. I didn't think much of it. That is until a couple of weeks later when I saw a close friend of mine getting dragged out of her cubicle in tears. The news broke and apparently my friend was the seller. The rumor was that my friend insisted until the very end that she was innocent and that it was her family member who took advantage of their sale. I immediately felt terrible because this is the person who referred me to my manager when I was desperately looking for a job after college. She vouched for me and went as far as giving me an interview, as well as practicing what I would say during the hiring process. After the incident, I never contacted her ever again, and she went into a major depressive episode where she completely altered her look. My friend said that she's been coping with the fact that she got fired and had to pay a lot of money towards a fine, as well as getting blacklisted by the beauty industry. I still honestly feel terrible about this to this day. I mean, you get what you pay for, really. It seems like your coworker was playing a stupid game and they won a stupid prize. You don't go behind the company that's putting bread on your table and use their employee discount just to sell it for twice the price most likely, if not a lot more. This lady had an awesome setup. She was getting all these beauty products for a fraction of the price, only to then turn around and try and scalp it for a quick buck. This is honestly not your problem. And it's not like she knew it was you anyways. You reported this anonymously trying to be a good employee. It is not your fault in the slightest. It's honestly your friend's fault for doing this in the first place. An entitled Karen called me racist because I wouldn't break federal law just for her. So when I was 18, I was working at a call center that handled debit and credit card fraud and identity theft issues for a bank. For a bit of background, according to federal law, even if you open an account online, you have to provide documentation that proves your identity in order to prevent scammers and criminals from making fake accounts and messing everything up for the bank and the customers. It also provides a way for the bank to identify someone posing as you should someone else ever try to impersonate you. As much as I hated it, when we had people call in because their accounts were on hold hold due to not providing proof of identity, it always landed in my department because everyone just assumed we're the ones that took care of it. One night, I got a call from a lady who was very irate and was already yelling when I got on the call. One of the agents from a sister site had decided to cold transfer the abusive customer straight to my department because, why not? And they never told her that they were transferring her in the first place. That's a great start to an already crappy call, but it was about to get much worse. As soon as the lady heard me talking, she was already spitting accusations of discrimination and racism, claiming that we were just putting her accounts on hold because of the color of her skin, stating that she works so hard for her money and that people like us are exactly the type of people who would do this. She immediately started saying that if I didn't unfreeze her accounts so that she could pay her bills, she was going to sue me, the agent from the other site, the company, and pretty much everybody. I did everything I could to calm her down and asked to put her on hold for a minute so that I could review the account. She told me I had better hurry up, and I put her on hold so I could see what was going on. The woman had recently opened the accounts and never verified her identity with the bank using her documentation. Again, it's federal law, and even if I did have the ability to unfreeze the accounts, I could have been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars and face potential jail time. Now, I don't care who you are, but facing jail and fines that I could never afford was nowhere near worth proving I wasn't racist and had nothing to do with the issue in the first place. When I got back on the phone, I started explaining the issue to the woman and even tried to help by asking if she had sent in her documentation as requested by the bank. She actually did calm down a little bit and answer the following questions. And this was all so I could try and help understand the situation just a little bit better. And I was able to locate the documentation that she had sent in. But here's the kicker. She had sent it in just minutes before calling, and it was already outside of business hours on a Friday. I explained to her that the documentation had arrived on my end, but I also had to explain that because she sent it outside of regular business hours, it wouldn't reach the back office until the following business day, and it would take 3 to 5 business days to review it. And you can guess what happened next. She again launched into this racist rant that I was just doing this because of the color of her skin, and that apparently I must hate people with her skin color, and then she demanded to speak to my supervisor. At this point, my patient was worn out and I was desperate to get out of this situation. I called my manager over and was about to explain everything when the manager took my mouse from my hand and hung up on the customer. He informed me that he had passed by and heard some racial slurs coming out of my headset and jumped in to listen on the call to see what was going on, since I was usually pretty good about diffusing situations like this on my own. He told me that he was impressed that I hadn't hung up already on her, especially after the first set of slurs, but he told me that he refused to let me get yelled at like that ever again, especially when I was trying so hard to be nice to this racist Karen. As much as I hate to say it, the call didn't end there. The Karen got a hold of an agent from the sister location and actually got them to unfreeze her account. On top of that, she got the agent to file a report against me, and the agent even stated that I was the one who unfroze the accounts. Bottom line, corporate was out for blood, and because of that agent, they were out for mine. My manager went on to convince them that I was innocent by playing the callback for the higher managers in the office, and I didn't find out until a few days later when corporate wanted to verify some information with me. Thankfully, I was left alone, but I decided it would be better to start looking around for a new job, especially with the fact that I almost got hate crime charges pressed on me on top of charges for breaking federal law. Yeah, that's a terrible situation to be stuck in. I've worked at a bank. I can only imagine what the call center's like. You get treated so terribly. People treat you like dirt. I think if you want to see how terrible someone actually can be, just mess with their money and freeze their bank account. They will literally lose their marbles. I really sympathize with the person in this story because I've been in that situation where you have to deal with some insane Karen only to then have your coworkers throw you under the bus. And it doesn't matter to me that it was a sister location. Whoever said that you're the one that unfroze the account is absolute garbage, and hopefully they don't have a job anymore. So good luck on your job hunt, and I honestly wish you the best, because anything's better than working at a bank, in my opinion. I regrettably went on a single date with a coworker, and after trying to break things off and never do it again, he won't leave me alone. I recently moved to a new city after a breakup in December. When I got set up at the new office, I pretty quickly formed a group of work friends that go out to trivia nights. This is how I met Todd, this is not his real name, who also just so happens to work at the company. We work in different departments, so we don't work directly with each other, but we sit almost right next to each other at work. At first, it was very friendly friendly and everyone got along. But I began noticing that Todd started talking to me more in the office. He came across as a little nervous and I could tell that he liked me. Being newly single after a 3-year relationship, I wasn't necessarily looking to jump into anything serious right away, so I could enjoy being single for the first time in a while. So I just let it go and continued to be friendly with Todd. Todd eventually worked up the courage to ask me out on a proper date. My thought process was that I was a little worried about going out with a coworker, but we don't exactly work together and I'm newly single, so what's wrong with one date? Plus, we get along well and I thought he was funny. That's the point of the date, to get to know a person and see if there's a connection. So I said, sure, let's do it. On the date, we went to a really nice restaurant and the conversation was good. He was a little awkward with his eating habits, which grossed me out a little bit. All in all, it was nice, but I didn't really get that genuine connection that you would hope from a date. After dinner, we went to my place and smoked some herb, if you know what I mean, and played some video games. This is something we had done before as friends with our group, so it wasn't out of the ordinary, except for the fact that we went alone. This is where I feel I screwed up. He asked to kiss me, and I kind of froze and felt awkward, but went for it anyways. All because I'm bad on the spot and was not expecting that, to be completely honest. And the kiss was not good. I have kissed a lot of people, and it's pretty easy for me to kiss people, but this was not it. At this point, I'm beginning to think Todd doesn't go out much. After that, it's a lot of awkward silence before I suggest that I need to go to bed so we can part ways. A few days later, he calls and asks for a second date. I tell him straight up that I prefer to keep our relationship platonic and that I don't want to feel uncomfortable at work, while also saying that this isn't really what I want with being newly single. He sounded pretty crushed and said he thought the date went well. I told him I had a nice time, it's just not something I want to continue, but I still appreciate his friendship since he was one of my first friends when I moved here. We hung up and he sounded very upset, which is understandable to some extent. So back at work, I try to continue to be friendly, and I'm pretty good at not making things awkward, but I'm also just not a very chatty person in the office. I just want to do my job. A week maybe goes by and Todd asks me at the office once again if he can talk to me outside. He says to me, "I'm worried that you hate me because you don't respond to my Snapchats." And I found it a little weird, like he's taking that personally. I do snap him, but sometimes my friends just send stuff to each other without necessarily responding to each thing. I mean, come on, it's Snapchat for God's sakes. I try to reassure him that I'm not trying to avoid him or anything like that, stating that it's just how I am. And I've continued to hang out with him in our group setting outside of work, so it's not like I'm not around him. So I try to snap him more, or whatever, so he doesn't get offended, and at this point, I feel like we were working towards a good friendship. We were joking in the office and stuff like that. He asked me if I wanted to go for a bike ride with him one weekend, and I thought to myself, okay, it might be a little awkward doing something one-on-one with him, but it would show that I'm making an effort towards friendship. So I say, sure, let's go. We go on a long bike ride and stop at the park to go for a walk to kind of stretch our legs. And that's when he tries to hold my hand. I immediately say, no. And he responded, "I was worried that would happen." Like, yeah, no kidding, you overstepped a boundary. I thought we made it clear at this point. I changed the subject and we just kind of moved past it at that point. The following weekend, our group goes to a baseball game. I personally had a really good time with everyone and it was really cool. I gave Todd and some other friends a ride back to their cars. The next day, Todd calls to tell me, you didn't really hang out much with me at the game, and I thought that was really uncool. And to be honest, at this point, I'm very annoyed with Todd. I'm literally just trying to go about with my life, but he always has some comment to make about how I do or don't interact with him. I respond back to him and I say, "Is that all you called me for?" He says, yeah, I guess. And I just say, I gotta go, and I hang up. He then sends several follow-up text messages apologizing and saying it's just because he's jealous that I hang out with Rebecca, which is my best girlfriend, also adding on that he's been lonely for a long time. I respond via text and tell him that all his comments are starting to make me uncomfortable and that this is why I didn't want to go out again. I told him I was sorry if I let him on the first date, but he needs to let it go and respect my boundaries. He shoots back with, "Can we talk about it?" And I say, "I can't tonight," because I was genuinely busy, but also I was pretty done with him at that point. About an hour later, he sends me a long text message professing his love for me. He barely knows me. He just finally got one kiss from a girl and can't let that go. In his text, he said he would give me space at work. I haven't responded and I haven't talked to him at work. I'm not sure how I should respond or if I should. All I'm going to say to him if he really does want a response is that I think he should get a therapist if he's truly upset that I don't want to go out with him. I should have never kissed him or even agreed to go out because now work is just very uncomfortable, especially since we sit super close to each other. I think it's time to talk to your manager and get your seat moved. I mean, this is crazy. I am all about trying to be a nice person and include everybody around you, but the original poster in this situation, in my opinion, is being way too nice. It's time to set some very clear boundaries and say, hey, this has gone past the point of trying to be friends. You're just being weird at this point. And then leave it at that. If he keeps pursuing it, you need to get HR involved because this is stretching into an area that's starting to affect your work. Like, how have you not moved desks? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you want to sit next to this guy after he sent you creepy text messages and after he made some kind of weird approach on you on a long bike ride? I would personally screenshot everything and document every single interaction you've had with this individual. And no, I don't think you have to respond. If he keeps pushing it, you can just keep pushing back and saying, I'm not interested in you. Leave me alone. If he doesn't leave you alone, then you know where to go from there. Overall, I wish you the best of luck in dealing with this because this sounds like a really frustrating situation, especially in your day-to-day situation where you work with him, which I can only imagine is an absolute nightmare. My husband won't pay any bills and is putting a strain on our relationship. I don't know where to go from here. I came to this country to escape violent abuse and couldn't legally work while I waited for my visa to get approved. It was his idea for me to come over and he told me I'd be safer here, which is true. I walk dogs on the side for money so my partner wouldn't be the only one providing for us, although he by far was still the breadwinner. A month before we got married, he got let go from his job for reasons that weren't his fault. That was nearly 2 years ago, and ever since, he's not had another full-time job and has been accumulating more and more debt. I got my visa and paid over £3,000 to secure a flat for us. I immediately went into full-time work as soon as my visa was approved. He had a 10-hour-a-week job for about a month or two at one point, but was also let go from that one. Since he's funded to go to university, he got student loans every month, put it into his account, but somehow the debt still kept piling. And so he went to drinking when I got home at nearly midnight every night from work. I am so deep in my savings and said as much, but he tells me, you're not broke if you have savings. That's offensive to me who is in debt. All my wages have been going to rent, bills, and keeping us fed, especially him with the last one since he likes to eat the house out while I'm away at work. If I didn't work this much, we would have starved to death months ago. He said he didn't want to get another job because he was in the 4th year of his university and he needed to focus, but promised me he'd be responsible with his loans and that he'd find a side hustle like fixing computers or phones. And as you can probably guess, none of that happened. Our electricity and gas bill has doubled, and still we need to buy groceries. I was stressed and beginning to hallucinate from the lack of sleep and overworking a physical job. I'm having a few health concerns, but just cannot financially afford to take a day off. He finally got the hint and bought some groceries for once. The day they're meant to be delivered, he gets a call saying his card has been declined. That's when he let me know that he maxed out his £2,000 overdraft over the past 6 months and has £30 to his name on a credit card. I freaked out and asked him where all the money went, only to then see all the beer cans laying around the house, while also remembering that every night he'd pick up a 4-pack to drink to himself when I got through the door late at night from work. He also spent our hard-earned money on video games and a fancy computer set up in our living room. And now there's no food. I caved and paid the bill myself when he reminded me of the other bills he needs me to pay this month. He tried to guilt trip me by saying he'll have to sell his Nintendo Switch and some of his other stuff, though he doesn't appear to be in any rush because it's all still there and he's still been on his butt drinking, playing video games, and giggling over movies. He told me not to worry because he's starting a new career in a few days, and made sure to stress the point that he'll be making more money than me. So I asked him, great, so that means your employer can give us a generous upfront payment so you can help me pay for some of the bills that are coming in over the next week. He unfortunately did not catch on to the sarcasm, nor did he get the bigger picture. At this point, I just want to leave him, but my visa depends on us being married. I have no good family or connections in my home country. I'm building my career here, and all of my relationships are here in the United Kingdom. It is hilarious that I, an immigrant who's busting my butt to keep myself as well as my husband, who's not an immigrant, afloat, but I would be considered the problem if I leave his sorry butt. And either way, I would be the one that suffers. We've been together for nearly a decade, so naturally I don't want to end it here. But if it wasn't for my visa, I'd be tempted to. What should I do? This is such a terrible situation to be in. I can't imagine being an immigrant into another country and then getting married, and then the person you're married to just decides, hey, I'm not going to work. work. The one thing I can confidently say in this situation is that this lady's husband is a complete deadbeat. This guy has not stepped up to the plate and done anything to support his wife. It's absolutely appalling that he's just sitting there doing nothing, playing video games, burning all their money on alcohol and movies. That is not how you have a functioning relationship. That is just neglectful and absolutely abusive. You would think that he would want better for himself as well as his wife. But he's going to have a very rude wake-up call when his wife finally says, I have no money to pay bills. And they're going to be out on their butts without any possibility of finding solutions. And only then will he finally catch on and get things done. It really is a tragic situation, but I really do hope the original poster finds a solution and is in some way able to secure a future where she actually has someone with her that's going to help her pay the bills. But what would you do if you're in this situation? Leave a comment down below. My roommate ruined her life and our friendship over a man. So first, a bit of context. Me and my friend, we'll call her Jenny, that's not her real name, we're looking to rent an apartment together. After a dispute with multiple apartment complexes beforehand, my parents ended up buying a townhouse. They liked the city I was living in and decided to make an investment. At the same time, they would let us rent out the place for cheap in order to avoid sleazy college town landlords. They let Jenny rent as well since they believed she was responsible and a good impression on me. So we first moved in maybe over a year ago. We were really excited about having a nice private place. Everything was fine and we had no real problems. That is until she adopted her dog. This dog by the name of Bella was a big hound dog. Now this is important because we live in a small townhouse with a very limited yard. Not only that, but the dog was surrendered by a previous family because she was easily excitable and was dangerous around very young children. Bella was not potty trained and knew no discipline, so she was very hard to control. We basically had to keep a constant eye on her. Granted, Jenny seemed to love Bella and took care of her. However, she never took the time to train Bella, so the bad behaviors only worsened. Poor Bella did not have the room to run around or play in our very small backyard, so she was always full of energy, and that energy was mostly destructive. And again, she was a hound dog, so she barked all day, day in and day out. Flash forward about 7 months to winter around Christmas time. Jenny had broken up with her toxic boyfriend, who lived in the house rent-free. And at the time, this was a recent breakup. She was going through a phase where she was hooking up with a few dudes on Tinder. I didn't mind as long as her awful ex didn't come back. She met a man by the name of Dylan. This is also not his real name. And right away, he was a walking red flag. I swear this man threw a whole tantrum at this girl when she left a party before he got there, and he was mad that she didn't stay just for him. I tried to tell Jenny as a concerned friend who has seen a thing or two from crappy men that he was not good for her and that she should date the nice countryman instead who went out of his way to take good care of her. Long story short, she ended up with Dylan. As soon as they got together, she practically disappeared. She stopped staying the night at the house almost every night. No biggie except for the fact that Bella was always left at the house. This mostly meant that I was the one to take care of the dog every single night. Now, I don't mind helping out, but I did not get the dog because I did not want that responsibility. Gradually, over the next 2 to 3 weeks after dating Dylan, she spent less and less time at the house. After the dog started to pee on the carpets more and more frequently, it started to become a major chore, and it was becoming too much to handle. I texted her saying, hey, you should take Bella with you to your boyfriend's place, or you guys can spend the night here, but I am getting a lot of stress because I cannot handle this. After I sent that, I was just completely brushed off. Another week goes by and it's the same stuff that keeps on happening. I'm getting sicker, more stressed out. I send another text, this time much more direct, saying something to the fact of, hey, if you are gonna be away for so long, you need to take care of Bella. I am very stressed out and she is not my dog. Jenny calls me after this and I tell her she needs to take care of her. I get screamed at as I'm responding to her and she just hangs up. Everything is tense at the house and I start to become incredibly uncomfortable in my own home. At random times of the day, Jenny and her boyfriend come by to let Bella out once a day and spend 15 to 25 minutes in the house. After visiting, they leave for the rest of the day. Bella now only really gets care from me and I'm becoming more and more enraged. Without me being there, Bella would not get care for over 36 hours some days. And at work, she pees on the floor and tears things up. So after a long day at a minimum wage job, I can look forward to the messes I get to clean up. With things so tense in the house, I install a lock on my door. I mean, people I don't know are coming into my house at random times of the day. So to me, I think that's fair, but apparently I was wrong. Jenny decided that in response, she will lock Bella in her room. I did not have a key to the room, and poor Bella had nobody to take care of her. Jenny continued that same pattern of visits, and sooner or later, the whole house started to smell like dog pee. I started getting my parents, who are the landlords, involved in the situation at this point. She eventually stopped paying rent. At this point, my parents were incredibly angry, especially at the damage the dog caused and the general treatment Bella has had. My parents gave my friend one last opportunity to leave without issues. They gave her a termination for her lease that she can agree to, so that way she wouldn't have an eviction on her record. She never signed but agreed to move out, as she was wanting to move in with her boyfriend anyways. But she stayed past the time limit my parents gave her, like weeks by the way, and was practically just trying to use the house as a kennel for her dog. So after many warnings, they had to push for an eviction. With the massive amount of evidence stacked against her, she very quickly lost the case. She has since moved out. We had to tear up the floors because of how ruined the carpet was. I was finally able to relax and get my life back in order. But here's the kicker. A friend that works with Jenny is a friend of mine as well. At her party today, she filled me in on basically what happened afterwards. Bella was given away and they now have 2 puppies instead. Apparently her boyfriend was cheating on her since the beginning. She lost the management position she had and was demoted. They also have a joint bank account that has been scammed. She is sad she has no friends and no place to live. Basically, all the stuff everyone thought would happen did happen. And while I don't feel sorry for Jenny in the slightest, I just hope that Bella gets that big yard that she absolutely deserves. This is such a sad story, and the person who owns that dog is a terrible person. The person with the made-up name of Jenny is an absolute horrible dog owner. She would lock that dog in her room for hours on end. Not only that, but she would completely neglect it when she did spend time with it. That dog deserves so much better, and I'm actually kind of glad that they gave it away, because that lady was not treating that dog nicely. Those kinds of dogs do need big backyards. They need to be able to run and get their energy out. Otherwise, they're going to do exactly what they did in this story, tear things up and ruin somebody's house. It is such a sad situation, but honestly, for the original poster, it's probably the best thing that could happen to her, because she got away from a crazy roommate and that dog got away from Jenny. And hopefully, just like the original poster said, I hope Bella is able to get that big backyard that they absolutely deserve. An entitled Karen nearly makes me quit my job on the spot after freaking out at me on the job. I feel as though the longer I've been in the business of service, the less sensitive I am to certain things. Like my first week, I got yelled at by a customer for not being able to take a payment. I didn't have access to be able to take a payment at the time because I was new. I went home considering quitting purely because of that experience. If that happened now, or if I saw another server going through that, I would just refuse service. The main experience that made me want to quit on the spot was a few days ago when these entitled Karens came in. Our restaurant operates in such a way where we ask for your drinks as well as your food at the same time. So I asked and I got their drinks, and when I asked for their food, one girl looked up, laughed, and went, "I think we want our drinks first," as if I said something unbelievably stupid. I just shrugged it off because, whatever. So being the quote good server I am, I just walked away. I asked the bartender to put through their drinks, and I gave it to them. The same Karen looked at me in the face, laughed at me, and then shooed me away like a child. She literally did that, all while she laughed with her fellow Karen friend. Apparently though, there was a lemon in her drink. She wanted a lime or a strawberry, but absolutely not a lemon. I simply didn't have the energy to explain that it wasn't me, considering she was right next to the bar and could see the drinks being prepared. She felt so unbelievably disrespected, and I'm not sure if it was the attitude of the woman or the constant snide remarks about how server staff have nothing else better to do, so we should just be better at serving them if this is all we amount to. But it really got under my skin, all because she didn't get a lime. So then they got their food, I deliver it to them, and she just stares at me before laughing in my face and demanding that I take it back to the kitchen. When I asked why, she responded, "Because I want you to," and then demanded that I remove the food she ordered from her bill, as she has literally changed her mind as it was being brought out. Apparently, according to this Karen, as a server, or as she called it, the lowest job in the hierarchy, it is my job to do as she says. And you know what? I didn't do what she said. I handed her over to my supervisor. At this point, my shift was over. I warned my colleagues about the stupid Karens at table 3, and I ran out of there. My guess is, to explain their behavior, is that they were already inebriated and very entitled. I'm still in disbelief that this happened. I've never seen someone swear in every sentence before. I'm still tempted to quit because management is incapable of protecting their servers from this type of abuse. Not that this particular customer was abusive, but I have seen some physical violence break out, and the manager will just offer a customer a free coffee and ignore the damage to the server. So overall, I'm really reflecting on my future career opportunities, and I'm not sure what to do. As someone who's worked in food service as well as customer service, let me tell you, I know exactly where you're coming from. It is horrific to have to deal with people who do not care about your well-being, all the while you're supposed to care about their well-being as if they're the most important person on the planet, which at its core is just simply unfair. Yes, I am serving you your food, and yes, I'm providing you some semblance of customer service to the best of my ability towards the tail end of my shift. Cut me some slack if I'm not spot on. And I just cannot stand that this stupid Karen actually described a server as the lowest job in the hierarchy. Fun fact, that's an incredibly hard job. They work harder than some people I've worked with in a corporate setting. That's why personally, whenever I go out to eat, which isn't very often, I make sure to tip those servers well, because I know for a fact their job sucks and they have to deal with people who are absolute garbage human beings. It's the least I can do, really. But this Karen should be ashamed of themselves for treating someone like this. In my honest opinion, you can really know how someone actually is by simply taking them to a restaurant and seeing how they treat their waiter. This is somebody who would not know who they are and has absolutely no skin in the game, as to say. So the way they treat them is a great way to figure out how they treat most people, especially when you're not around. Overall, I really feel sorry for the original poster. I know exactly where they're coming from, and hopefully if they do change jobs, they're able to see that they can find a place to work that will actually have their back when things go wrong and will actually be there to help you and support you through thick and thin. My coworker stole all of my tips after a long night of serving, so I picked up a shift on Sunday and worked through most of it before I had a medical emergency and had to leave. This isn't the first time this has happened to me at the restaurant, and though it's been a few years, the same people who were working with me the last time are the same people managing the place now. The other servers are relatively new, as they've only been here for maybe a few months. So yeah, the managers put my money in an envelope and locked it in the office. I told them that I'd be in this morning to pick up my tips, so they said they would bring the money to put it under the register, so that I could just grab the envelope and go. One of the managers popped open the drawer and my money was gone. She runs to the back to check the office and my money wasn't there. I had to get to work, so I told her that we will sort this out later. The owner just called me and apologized, saying that one of the servers was caught on camera stealing my money from under the drawer of the register. I know exactly who it was, and since I've picked up weekends there before, she's been treating me like a threat. So now I'm trying to decide if it's even worth it to press charges or to just let her get fired and figure her stuff out. I've got my money back regardless, whether or not she gives that envelope willingly or if the owner's just gonna have to pay out of pocket. Regardless, I'm going to get my money. I would 100% press charges against the person who stole my money. There is no way I would let that slide. And while yes, they are getting fired, they absolutely should be charged for what they did. Maybe I'm being heartless, but when it comes to my money that I work hard for, there's no way I'm gonna let someone else take that from me, or in any way, shape, or form delay me getting it. I've worked in the food industry, I've worked as a server as well as a busboy, so I understand how valuable those tips are and how badly I would need them sometimes just to make ends meet. So if I was in the original poster's shoes, you better believe I would be calling the police on this situation. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. An entitled lady tries to turn off my uncle's dirt bike because apparently it was just too loud while he's riding it. So for context, this happened about 2 years ago. At the time, we had a 100cc mini bike, and I used to ride it around our property as we had 2 acres. Where I lived, you were allowed to ride dirt bikes, side by side, quads, etc. So this particular day, me and my uncle were riding around the backyard for about an hour before this lady approaches us. Now, we were kicking up a little bit of dust, but our property is pretty far from hers. "Hey," she yells to get our attention. Yeah? Hi, sorry, I couldn't hear you," my uncle says. Now, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but she basically lectured us about how what we were doing was illegal and how we're not supposed to be doing it. Keep in mind, we are on our property, and even if we weren't on our property, it was county land, therefore it was still legal. My uncle basically goes on to explain how what we were doing isn't legal. Once she is proven wrong, she goes back to her house on a quad with no gear. Anyways, we ride for about 30 more minutes and she comes back again. "Excuse me, I'm trying to feed my horse. Can you get off those things?" she says. Keep in mind, our property is pretty far from hers and our bikes are not loud from her house. She then proceeded to literally try and turn off my uncle's bike, so he gets defensive and slaps her arm away. She then tries to blame him for assault, and she basically walks back to her house without her quad this time and films us the entire way back to her house while we're just sitting there in confusion of what just happened. Me and my uncle now make jokes about it and ended up nicknaming her the crazy horse lady. as we constantly ended up having more problems with her. Entitled Karens like this are really the bane of my existence because they are always constantly trying to ruin the fun, especially when the fun is legal and not bothering anybody. This story is akin to some Karen walking up to a skate park and getting angry at skaters skating on said skate park. Say that 10 times fast. No, but seriously, this lady walked onto this guy's property and tried to turn off his bike while he's still riding it. Like, how entitled do you have to be to try and mess with someone else's property? That is simply not okay. And then when she gets proven wrong and absolutely destroyed verbally, she walks back to her property just to film them. So at least they'll have some kind of demo reel when it comes to them riding around their property, I guess. So the moral of this story, don't bother people if they're having fun, especially when that fun is not bothering you. Otherwise, you're just gonna look like a Karen. My boyfriend keeps trophies from his previous relationships, and it's kind of weird. I've been living with my boyfriend for 3 months. We've been seeing each other for a total of about 1.5 years, and we just happen to have leases that came up at the same time, so we thought it would be a good time to move in together just to save some money. We live in a 1-bedroom, and it's been alright. We get along, he cooks a lot, and we live in a nice neighborhood, and we go out to eat and go to the museums, comedy shows, and the theater together. He's much cleaner than most guys his age, and when we moved in together, he had a filing cabinet that kept vital records like birth certificates, passports, laptops, etc. He locks it because it has important work documentations and personal laptops, but it's not like it's a secret. I know about it and I know where he hides the key. He texted me a few days ago when he was at work and I was working from home asking for me to get his passport number. I've never actually opened it because I didn't need to, and so I got the key and I opened it up. And when I was flipping through, I saw a tab labeled personal. I figured that might be where his passport was located, but instead it was just a bunch of random stuff. His passport was in personal documents. He had some photos of his dead dog, some letters from his sister who lives abroad, but almost all of it was from what I assume were women he dated in the past. There were hand-drawn pictures of him, some of him playing football, some letters addressed to his pet names. Some other woman wrote him a note on her business card, as well as memorabilia from a trip to the White House. All of these were from previous ex-relationships. Why would someone keep all this? If you actually move on from somebody, you move on from that and don't keep little knickknacks. It's extremely weird. Am I weird for thinking that this is a red flag? I would personally throw that garbage out as soon as we break up and I move on like an adult. What should I do? That is a little weird that he's keeping stuff from previous relationships, but at the same time, it's not totally out of the ordinary. I think if anything, they're just memories and like moments in his life. I don't think there's anything really nefarious going on here. I think also it might be just a forgotten folder that he just completely does not even look through anymore. And this is a place where he used to keep personal stuff, but I don't really think it's some weird like, hey, here's the stuff from my previous ex-relationship. I'm gonna hold on to it like a trophy. A trophy would almost imply that he's holding it up and he has it like on display for everybody to see. That would be weird. Having a folder and a file that just kind of says personal stuff doesn't necessarily scream red flag to me personally. So in all honesty, you should be good. My stepmom has completely stolen my dad away from me. I'm a 17-year-old male, and this story takes place a few years ago. My dad got a new girlfriend in September of 2019. We thought this was great and everyone was happy because he was pretty lonely. When we met her, she was great. She was funny, she liked messing around, and she was just overall a nice person. On Thanksgiving of that year is when the first odd thing happened. She talked about how she just left her husband because she didn't like him anymore. She left the state and didn't divorce until it was completely forced on her. On Christmas, when we were all playing around with our presents as kids do, she suddenly starts yelling at her kids for playing with our stuff, which they were allowed to do, and started pulling them by the ear. This caught everybody off guard, and my mom told my dad that he might want to be careful around her. Then February came around and it was a normal weekend. Me, being the annoying brother that I am, decided to steal a Skittle for my sister. I know this was a pretty rude thing to do, but I was joking around and I gave it right back. She then starts yelling at me for how rude it was and how I should be nicer to her. This threw me way off guard. She started yelling because I took a Skittle. She then made me stand in the corner on one leg and count to 100. This is extremely odd because no one in our family ever gives physical punishments. Meanwhile, my dad is just standing there and my sister is trying to explain that it was fine. Later that night, I threw up, and for a very, very long time, I thought I was just sick. Turns out that it was a reaction to trauma I had when I was a baby, where my biological parents didn't feed us or my brothers and got us in trouble for eating. When I was being told about this, I also learned that since I was adopted, my parents agreed that I would never receive punishment for food ever. This is why I threw up. My brain remembered the trauma and I reacted to it. What made me me mad is that my dad just stood there when he knew about this deal. Fast forward to August of 2021, and we started to receive counseling, and in September, we started to see our dad again. He promised that he had changed, and that the stepmom was not going to give punishment to me or my sister in any way ever again. We started rebuilding our relationship, and for a month or two, it was good. Then, 2 days before Halloween, my brother gets sent to a psychological hospital for allegedly destroying the house and for having bad behavior. This was hard on us, but he had been aggressive in the past, and so it wasn't the hardest to believe. He got out on December 10th and was once again admitted on January 3rd. This was because he had gotten very aggressive and angry when he found out he didn't get a PS5 for Christmas. During this period, his dog was taken and locked in its room for 2 weeks, only allowed to leave for the bathroom. They then had student-parent meetings. In this meeting, the stepmom verbally admitted that they locked the dog in his room. This immediately started a CPS investigation. During this time, he was once again admitted to the hospital. This time it was because, and I quote, he was punching kids and threatening everybody in the house, especially threatening to hit her and attack the neighbor's dog. By this point, everyone knew she was crazy and tried talking to my dad about it. His parents, his brother, his sisters, us kids, my mom, everybody told him that he was being manipulated and that she was crazy, but he didn't believe any of it. While my brother was in the hospital, he told the doctors about everything that he'd been through. When he was released, he said that he would rather be in the hospital than go home to his evil stepmother as well as my dad. This is when he would, quote, start hitting the car as well as yelling at the stepmom. She would grab her boys by the ear and make them throw away their stuff if they got in trouble. My sister and mom were told every weekend that she needed better clothes and that my mom was mentally abusing us. Weirdly, I was treated amazingly, and I was treated very good compared to my siblings. I was never talked down to or talked badly to. We were also gaslit all the time. Eventually, there was a court investigation regarding my stepmother, and that's when she lied and said all sorts of terrible, slanderous things. In April, my dad ripped up and burned my brother's adoptions paper and told him he wasn't allowed in the house anymore. He stayed at our house for a little bit, and then we had a court hearing that gave me and my brother the right to live with my aunt. He got counseling and we started seeing each other again. My dad was told by the state and the trauma therapist that he was not allowed any of our information or to see us ever unless he agreed to get counseling, as well as to have this evil stepmom out of his life, as well as if we agree. The entire situation in my upbringing is just simply not fair, and I just wish that my stepmother was not in my life. I feel so bad for this original poster because they've gone through quite the life. With family in and out of hospital, as well as the stepmom just lying about everything that's going on, I can only imagine how hard it must have been growing up in that environment. Hopefully the court decision, as well as some other things going on in your life, allow you to get away from those people and to live your life in a way that is not toxic. I'm so sorry for everything you've gone through, and I genuinely hope things get better. Today I messed up by giving the neighborhood kid a motorcycle. This happened a couple of years ago. For 4 years, the neighbor kid had been cutting my lawn for what I thought was free. Why, you may ask? Well, years ago, him and his friends were playing basketball. As anyone can tell you, teenagers in a neighborhood basketball game can get heated. Name calling can happen, best friends can become enemies, and let's not forget the occasional fist fight. I didn't get to see the game, however, at some point there was a fight. This resulted in a thrown basketball through my front picture window. Now, as a result, I have a basketball through the window and a kid on my front porch. A lot of crying and a lot of anger came afterwards. There were apologies left and right, and they'd say that he would pay for it. But to be honest, I really wasn't all that mad. Obviously, nobody intended for a ball to go through my window. I wanted new windows anyways. Now I had a really good reason to do it. All 4 kids helped put some plastic up for me, and as far as I was concerned, all was well. The parents are great people, really. They were always kind, and we'd watch each other's property if one of us was away. I had plenty of neighborhood cul-de-sac parties over the years. They were more upset than I ever could have been. They decided their son would cut my lawn for free until he was 16. It was kind of extreme in my opinion, but they weren't taking no for an answer. So this kid had to cut my grass for 4 years? I personally thought it was ridiculous, but in the end, that kid cut my lawn every 2 weeks in the spring, summer, and fall. He messed up some unbelievably expensive plants once that cost him more than the window. His parents never let me hand him money, and I personally felt that this just wasn't right. So I started putting $100 every time he did my lawn in a safe box, 15 times a year, and fast forward 5 years later, and he had racked up $6,000. The summer he turned 16 was 4 years after the basketball accident. He was getting his license and he wanted to get his own ride. I waited until his parents got home, walked over to their house, and handed this young man the money in front of his parents. They said, "No, of course not," but I didn't want to hear it. I told them I would be very upset if you gave me the money back. He had mowed my lawn and never complained for 4 years. Honestly, he earned it. The kid was so happy and overjoyed. His mom and dad were kind of emotional, and so was I. The next day, I hear a window rattling and a Harley Davidson outside. Oh yeah, he bought his best friend's older brother's motorcycle. This fool had never even owned a dirt bike. I'm outside his mom's house and I'm in shock while she's just angry. She's cursing at me because apparently it's my fault because I gave him the money. She's saying how she's gonna hurt himself or even worse. You know, everything a mom would say. All the while, I'm trying not to show that aside from being shocked, I'm slightly amused. I can't prove it, but I think he spent that $6,000 specifically just to upset his parents, especially for making him mow that lawn for free. I mean, he didn't know there was actual money involved. 2 days passed by and I hadn't heard the bike start. Finally, I hear it start up. He pulls out of the driveway and makes it to the stop sign. He goes to turn, hits the curb, and whiskey throttles it and hits a parked car. He breaks his left arm, his wrist, as well as his right hand, and he's all scratched up. And the medical bills alone cost a lot more than $6,000. And to top it all off, he didn't have any insurance yet. He didn't even have a motorcycle license. So he was personally liable for the parked car that he hit. The bike was trashed, and it all ended up costing him close to $10,000. So in the end, his mom was right. He really was gonna hurt himself. This story is really funny because it's one of those things where it's like, how could you expect this would happen? Like, I'm sure this guy had every good intention in his mind to give this money to this kid, obviously without the intention that this kid would break his arm, his hand, and everything else. And also the kid didn't even have insurance and he had to pay for everything. That's a lot of money down the drain, and a lot more than $6,000 that he had slowly earned over 4 years. And I'm kind of with the original poster on this one. 4 years for a broken window? That's insane. I think I would be pretty upset with my parents too if they made me cut some guy's lawn for 4 years, all because I broke a window. It would have been easier to get a part-time job and pay for the window that way, instead of being subject to some kind of labor enforcement. I mean, that's crazy to me. I really feel bad for the kid in this story because it looks like he just can't catch a break, and now he's going to be stuck with some broken bones and a lot of money to pay towards the car he busted up, not to mention his busted bike. An entitled Karen cuts in line when I'm getting food and then yells at me saying that I'm too fat to eat. So in my hometown, there's a little summer festival going on with lots of music. There's a food truck, there's some fun rides, and those little shacks where you can get clothes and jewelry. There are people dancing, eating, and drinking everywhere. Everyone is honestly having a lot of fun. I was with my parents and my mom said that she was hungry. Since she recently suffered a foot injury, I decided to go get us some hot dogs. So my dad gives me some money and off I go to a nearby truck. The festival wasn't at its fullest yet, so there wasn't a lot of people in line. In front of me was a young teen couple, a biker gang mom and her son, and behind me was an elderly couple. I was minding my own business, thinking about which hot dog I was going to get, when out of the corner of my eye, I see the entitled Karen and her demon child. She didn't look like the typical Karen. She had long brown hair and actually had an appearance that made it seem like she was nice. But boy was I wrong. The entitled Karen was at the side of the line, looking at the menu, probably thinking about what to eat like the rest of us, when her son, you know, the demon child, who's about 9 or 10, started absolutely screaming, "Mommy, mommy, I want a burger, 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 burger." This demon spawn repeated this on and on and on, all the way up until the entitled Karen snaps at him, saying that she heard him the first time and that she'll buy him a burger. All of a sudden, she walks and stands in front of me, all while her little gremlin child is still screaming, "Burger, burger, burger." I say politely to her, "Excuse me, ma'am, but I was already in line. You can't cut in front of me. The line isn't too long, so you won't have to wait too much." She turns around, glares at me, and spits out with pure venom, "Listen here, sweetie. My baby and I have been walking around looking for a place to eat, and my child is really hungry, so he deserves to eat as soon as possible. Also, maybe you should get out of line. You're too fat to be eating anything." Now, I'll admit, I'm a big girl, but just because I'm fat doesn't mean that I'm unhealthy. My doctors say that I'm fine and I like the way I am. If this had happened a few years ago, I probably would have cried and walked away. But I've recently gained a no BS attitude, and I wasn't about to let this entitled Karen talk to me like that, let alone insult me in this way. I say, mimicking her tone, "Well, sweetie, I'll eat as much as I want, and as for your son, he can wait in the line like everybody else." The entitled Karen looked like she was about to speak, but then the biker gang mom from earlier turned around, interjected, and said to this Karen, "You better listen to the little lady and go to the back of the line,
or else things are gonna get ugly.
With that, the entitled Karen scoffs and drags her son away. I guess they weren't hungry after all. You have to be pretty entitled to cut into a line that's already not that long. Like honestly, your annoying little demon spawn child is not a good reason to jump in front of people who are waiting in line like everybody else. I don't know what it is about some of these Karens, but they obviously feel like they're better than everybody else. Otherwise, why would they act this way? I mean, if I see a food vendor and there's a line, guess what? I get to the back of the line and I wait like everybody else. You don't cut in front just to get early access to food. It just doesn't work that way. I've seen a lot of people like this in customer service, as well as in the food industry where I used to work at one point, and some people are just absolutely disturbingly entitled. They think they're a permanent VIP with everything and anything that they do, but in reality, they're just a normal citizen just like the rest of us. I don't care if you're Bill Gates or Jeffrey Bezos, you're still gonna stand at the end of that line. So yeah, don't be a Karen, wait in line, and don't insult people when you're waiting in line. Otherwise, some tough-looking biker mom's gonna tell you what's up, and you're gonna wish you'd kept your mouth shut. After 5 years of being engaged, I gave my fiancé the ring back. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 7 years in October, and we've been engaged for 5 of those years. And yes, I know what you're thinking. We got engaged way too early. After he proposed, I had the intention of having a wedding maybe a year after graduating college, which was in 2019. Ever since COVID hit, it seems that he has no intention of having a wedding or kids until he is financially ready, which is smart, but that probably won't be until we're in our 30s, at least for him. We seem to want to reach our goals in different points in our lives. For example, I do not want children until we are married. Yes, it won't be the end of the world if I have kids first, but that's always been my preference. I also wanted my first child before I turned 30, and while he wants to be financially stable before we basically do anything, at the moment, right now we both make around $50,000 together. I've already been engaged and wanting a wedding for the past 3 years. I don't think I can wait for another 5, so I decided to tell him that I do not want to be engaged until we can wedding plan within the year of being engaged. And at the time it hurt, but now I feel really good about it. I feel that I am putting myself first. My friends have told me how proud they are of me to do this, and now that I've been accepted into a medical imaging program, I'm going to be focusing on myself and my future more than ever. I just want to do things right. Start my career, buy a home together, get married, start a family. I know we can't plan every detail of our lives. I just wish I made smarter choices in my life. We still love each other and we plan on making things work. I can completely see where this lady's coming from. She wanted to get married, and after 5 years of waiting, it just simply wasn't happening. I understand wanting to be financially secure and wanting to be financially confident moving into a commitment like marriage, but at the same time, making your significant other wait 5 years before you get anything going is a long time to make that kind of commitment. So I don't blame her for giving the ring back and saying, hey, let's get this planned before we get engaged again. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, who cares what anyone else thinks? You got to do what's best for you. And it sounds like this really was the best thing to do for both of them, because it sounds like they're going to be able to actually make plans and have some kind of goal in mind, which honestly will be the best thing for their lives moving forward. Am I the jerk for not liking my girlfriend's new permanent makeup? My girlfriend and I have been together for a bit over a year now, and we have a great relationship overall. And frankly, I've never been so smitten with a woman. A year out, I could still stare at her all day, with hearts popping all over my face like a cartoon character. She is just such an insanely beautiful woman, and out of all of her features, my favorite is easily her lips. She has incredible, naturally plump lips that anyone would die for, and apart from the shape, I absolutely adore the natural color of her lips, a gorgeous dusty pink brown. Now for the last few months, she's been working an event planning job with a woman that plans beauty industry events, and she's talked for a while about getting permanent makeup tattoos done via those connections. She already did microblading, which is cool, very subtle, and it looks really nice. She also mentioned getting her eyes done, which was horrifying to me to have a tattoo there, but I get it. That's some of the only makeup she puts on, so I guess it makes sense. But then she also said that she was thinking about getting her lips done so that they'd always look like they have lipstick on. Now, every time she mentioned this, I told her honestly how I felt. I said that I really didn't want her to do that and that it would make me sad because I absolutely adore her lips and their natural color. But at the end of the day, it's her body. This came up multiple times and every time I reacted the same, but I think she didn't take it seriously and just laughed it off. This will be relevant in a moment. Now, yesterday at her latest event, she elected to be a model for a woman to demonstrate the process of applying permanent makeup to the lips, turning them a bright red or pink. I was of course disappointed for the reasons I stated before, before. I know it's her body, but it was also one of my favorite features, and frankly, I don't love how they look now nearly as much. I know it fades over time, but still, I couldn't help feeling a little bummed out about it. I tried to be supportive, but frankly, I'm terrible at concealing my true emotions. And when she got home, she saw right through me and got it out of me. So I told her, I'm sorry, I just don't like that you had your lips done. I know it's your decision and your body, but I also can't help but feeling a little bummed out because, like I said, I loved your lips how they were. And I also mentioned that, yeah, I know, I'm being a little silly and I just need some time to get used to it. She was, of course, not happy about that and told me she's really surprised that that's my reaction, which is confusing to me because I clearly expressed my opinion on the matter every time it was mentioned. And she went on to tell me it makes her worry because, in her words, what if she wants to get a boob job or any other work done? And to that, I responded honestly as well, saying that I probably wouldn't love that either. But just like with this, I'll get used to it eventually and still support her, and that it's her body and her decision to make. To which she retorted that it doesn't really seem that I support it at all. At this point, she said that she'd had enough and that she couldn't do this right now, and that she just needs to sleep. I feel really guilty about all of this. I mean, I even felt guilty before she even did it. It's not like I don't want to like it. I adore this woman and want to support her in everything she does. I mean, she's had work done before we met, and if I look at photos, I guess she looks better. But it's really hard for me to accept the idea of changing her body when I'm already so attracted to her just the way she is. And I feel like I shouldn't have to lie or hide my feelings about that. So now I honestly just need to know, was I a jerk? Should I have tried better to hide my feelings? Is it silly that I'm reacting so strongly? Is it really so bad for me to have my own preference about my girlfriend? I know that at the end of the day, I should support her no matter what, but I can't help but have certain preferences and likes and dislikes, you know what I mean? It's not like I don't want to change my heart, but I don't know. For example, if I got a big face tattoo or something, she probably wouldn't be thrilled, right? I don't know. Basically, my point is that overall, I just don't know how to reconcile our differences of opinion here, especially when it comes to major stuff like plastic surgery. What do I do? This is a really tough one because I can see both sides of this. I can completely understand where the lady's coming from, where she says, hey, it's my body and I really wanted to do it and I would really appreciate it if you supported me in this. But I can also see the guy's perspective where suddenly a major feature that he really liked about his girlfriend has suddenly changed, especially after he expressed, hey, I don't like this. It sounds like he's still going to be supportive of her no matter what, and he'll eventually get used to it, but he doesn't sound happy about it either way. But I think the guy also brings up a really good point. If he suddenly out of nowhere just got a face tattoo, how would his girlfriend react? I don't know whether or not she would be happy. I know if my significant other suddenly got a face tattoo, I'd be pretty upset. And yeah, if I love them, I would definitely support them, but in some ways it could almost be seen as like this forced contention just to try and prove whether you're loyal or not, which I don't think is fair for anybody. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you're in this guy's situation? Do you think he's overreacting a little bit and he'll get used to this new lip color? Or do you think he's right for having some kind of outrage over his girlfriend getting permanent lipstick done? Leave a comment, we'd love to know. My brother accuses me of ruining his friendship with his best friend, and now I think he's gonna be mad at me forever. What do I do? My brother's best friend and I started dating 5 years ago, and now we've been married for 3 years. And at first, my brother was happy and didn't care. Actually, he was the one who played Cupid, but lately, ever since our second daughter was born, he's been acting so weird. It's like he hates our relationship all of a sudden. 4 days ago, it was my husband's birthday, and he decided to take a short family trip to celebrate it. So we celebrated. It's just him, our daughters, and I. Nobody else, and we thought nobody cared, but apparently my brother really did care. The night before my husband's birthday was over, he texted me to let me know that I was ruining his relationship with his best friend. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, and he started saying that I stole his best friend, and that now he doesn't even want to celebrate his birthday with him, and that he doesn't go to boys' nights either, and that it's all my fault because he spends all the time he could use with his friends with me instead, as well as with his girls, and that apparently it's like he doesn't even have a life anymore. And that is honestly completely not true. My husband prefers to stay at home because he wants to, and he only goes to boys' nights when he wants to, and that's because he doesn't feel comfortable with them like he used to. They're all single, including my brother, and live crazy lives, and my husband is on another page in his life, so he says that's why he doesn't like spending so much time with them, and honestly, I respect that. I can't force him to go if he doesn't want to. I talked to my brother and I explained all of that to to him, but he keeps saying that it's all my fault, that he wanted us to be together, but he didn't expect me to apparently trap him with a ring and with kids so quickly. And hearing that hurt me so much because both of our daughters were totally planned. Neither of them was an accident that happened because of someone else. We wanted them in our lives. My husband talked to him, but he didn't understand. It's like he thinks I brainwashed him or something, and I don't know what else to do. They have been friends since kindergarten, and the last thing I want is for their decades-long relationship to be damaged because of me. So I want to try to make everything go back to the way it was before, if that's even possible, but I honestly don't know what to do. Maybe I should invite him over to our house or something, or maybe even just plan a trip just for the boys, or invite him to our next trip. I don't know. I'm willing to do anything just to fix this. And just to clarify, my husband also had a really crazy life before he started dating me. I've known him forever, and no one would ever have expected him to become a father and a husband. So I guess it's normal that everyone is shocked that he has this life now, because it's like everyone was sure that I would just be a phase and that he wouldn't change from that life for me or any woman. But he did change, and he became a fantastic father as well as a husband to me. And I guess that just bothers my brother as well as his friends. What do I do? There's not much you can really do in a situation like this, to be completely honest. It sounds like the brother's being incredibly selfish and incredibly childish. It is very immature of him to blame you for your husband growing up and becoming a father. Being a parent and being a good parent at that means that you got to put things aside and do whatever it takes for your children. And from the sounds of it, this lady's husband is a good husband and father. He made the changes necessary to be there for her as well as his daughters. And there's nothing wrong with that. Her brother is coming from a very immature perspective, and it is very immature of him to assume that his best friend is still the same after all these years. People change, people grow up, people become different people. That's just part of life. He is obviously very jealous and apparently hurt that he can't see his friend all the time, but that's what happens when you get married. Your priorities shift to your family, and that's the way it should be, in my opinion. So in my opinion, I don't think there's much you really can do about this except try and be involved in their life. But if he's going to blame you and be toxic and claim that you're the reason that he doesn't act the way he used to, then I think some distance and some solid boundaries would be really good for you and your family, because there's no good excuse for you to be treated like that. My parents lied to me my entire life, claiming that my dad went to medical school at the age of 16, and now that I found out the truth, I am completely crushed. As a kid, I was relatively gifted. I was no Einstein, but I was 12 years old in the 9th grade, and even though academically I did well, I was far too young to be that ahead. Everyone was discovering all sorts of things about their bodies, as well as getting their first boyfriends, and I was just doodling the Harry Potter symbol on my arm. All of my friends are 20 to 22 years old. I am in my senior year of college, and I'm 20 right now. I was 17 when I first began college, and have always been so determined to be perfect academically. Because of this, I let myself go physically. As a kid, I wanted to be a surgeon, and so I pushed myself as hard as possible to go towards that. I spent the summer of 2016 studying and prepping myself for med school. At the time, I was 14 years old. After the SAT, I was so exhausted. I slept for 13 hours straight. At one point, my parents would hide energy drinks from me because I was up all night studying obsessively while chugging Red Bull when my parents woke up at 6 in the morning. I was terrified of not doing well in school. I drove myself up a wall. When I realized I wouldn't be a surgeon and told my parents mid-college, they were so disappointed in me. Because of this, I started to eat and drink out of stress again. When I said I was now an English major, oh dear God, I drank for 2 days straight. When I said I couldn't graduate in 3 years, they were disappointed again. I tried Adderall for the first time and stayed up for 72 hours. I smoked cigarettes and passed out outside my dorm. All of this is 100% my fault and not my parents. But my dad is an incredibly successful businessman from a middle-class background, and I've always aspired to be like him. I changed career paths 3 times, and I was so shamed for it, even when I was just 15 or 16 years old. Even to this day, I'm a painful perfectionist, and I cannot give myself free time. The entire reason I changed career paths was because no one ever really asked me to choose, and I never let myself until I was 18 years old. And my closest friends were all older than me, and they really influenced me in terms of drinking as well as using any kind of illegal substances, as well as my eating habits. Also, they were all 21 and 22 years old, and their friends were 24 and 25 years old. For a while, I was a 19-year-old among 22 to 24-year-olds. I thought I was so cool at the time. I've never gotten a bad grade, and I'm completing 3 internships right now, but my My mental health is in the toilet, and all the weight I've recently lost is because I've been up and haven't touched food because I'm so depressed. When school is full-time, I work 2 jobs, even though I'm not on financial aid. Like I said, all these are a series of my own bad decisions. But a main reason why I push myself so hard is because once when I was 15 years old, I was told by my parents that my dad began med school when he was 16 years old. And that's why he had an early start in life, and that I'm just a late bloomer. I've always been age conscious, and because of this, feel halfway in the grave at 20 years old. Today, I mentioned the fact that my dad began school at 16 to my parents, and they looked kind of confused. Then I reminded them of the day they said that to me, and they sheepishly said it was a lie to motivate me, and my dad's timeline had been completely ordinary. Now, I don't think that takes away from what he's done, but they have always pushed the narrative that he was some kind of child genius. Now, my sister isn't like me, and she's more easygoing and less stressed. She's 19 years old. However, she is in her first year of college, and her grades aren't as good, but she just isn't subject to this kind of scrutiny. Today, she skipped school and went bowling. I never went bowling. I never went sightseeing. I never went shopping with any of my friends. It was either partying way too hard or spending all of my time studying. If it makes a difference, I'm the first grandchild to both sides of my family, and I'm the one with the hopes and dreams of the family pinned on them. I was so sick of hearing it. I was so upset at the lie, irrationally so. It's been happening a lot. For example, the other day, I was asked to clean some spilled milk that my sister dropped the other day, and I burst out suddenly screaming, "Well, why doesn't she do it herself?" Everyone looked so confused because I'm not the type of person to start screaming. I know there are people who have it harder and can cope with the stress, but I kind of just lost it. And by lost it, I mean I cried, like full-on snot sobbing. Writing this as of today, I haven't slept in 36 hours. I haven't eaten, and I'm literally living off of coffee. I think I ate some chicken maybe 30 hours ago. I am physically and emotionally half alive. I feel so betrayed. Once I was 20 and began having mental breakdowns on the weekly, and it was only then that my parents realized that they had messed up, realizing that they pushed me way too hard. Now I'm on autopilot, and it doesn't matter what they say. I push myself so hard it doesn't make a difference anymore. This entire situation has me questioning everything, and I just don't know what to do. It is absolutely atrocious that your parents pushed you that hard in your life and treated you so poorly. The fact that you were gifted and somehow were really smart and able to advance through school quickly is no good excuse for your parents to put all this pressure on you. And it's terrible that your extended family feels the same way. They placed you on this pedestal that you never asked to be put on, and that's just so disappointing. I can only imagine what kind of things you had to go through just to get where you're at. The amount of stress and studying you must have gone through had to have been absolutely crippling. In my opinion, it's probably time to see a therapist. It sounds like your parents have completely messed you up, and I really hope you find not only time to have a break, but also time to find the help that you need, because you deserve way better than this. My entitled aunt tried to announce her daughter's pregnancy at my baby shower, and I couldn't be more upset. My husband and I are finally expecting our rainbow baby after years of infertility and multiple miscarriages. It's safe to say we and our family are very freaking excited. My mother is probably the most excited. She's been planning our baby shower and making decorations for months. She's been the biggest help during this exciting yet scary pregnancy. A few weeks ago, my aunt told my mother and I that my cousin is pregnant, and we are honestly very happy for her. However, my aunt said their plan is to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower, apparently because we're going to be having a big party anyway, so it just makes sense. She said it's not a big deal and that we can both just share the day. I said absolutely not, because we've been waiting for this day forever, and it should be all about me and my rainbow baby. My mother's on my side and told my aunt that they better not announce anything at the party, so my aunt dropped it and nothing else ever was really said. Last Saturday was my baby shower. It was everything I've waited for. Everything is going good. No one has announced my cousin's pregnancy. When it was time for us to eat my cake, my aunt said, hold on, everyone." And she went outside to her car to go grab something. That was the moment I knew something was up. My mother and I follow her outside, and my aunt decided to bring a cake announcing my cousin's pregnancy and some presents for my cousin. My mother immediately told my aunt that she will not be bringing those back into the party and that they will not be ruining my day. My aunt started throwing a fit. She started screaming, "This is a baby
shower. It's for babies. And your cousin is having a baby too. So this day is about her too.
My cousin now joins in and starts screaming at us, saying how pissed off she is, that everything is always about me, asking why we always have to just be happy for me. They were so mad they would not stop screaming. Eventually, the place that we rented for this party had to call security and had my aunt and my cousin kicked out of their facility. Because of this, half of our family was really upset with us that we wouldn't allow my cousin to have a moment at my shower too. So because of that, they left as well. Now apparently everybody is bashing my mother, myself, and my rainbow baby online. It's honestly a mess, but I'm glad that I didn't let them steal my spotlight. For those who don't know what a rainbow baby is a baby that's born after a miscarriage, and it's a term used to describe the joy and hope after the storm of losing a baby. So obviously, this is not your ordinary baby shower. Like, how dare this aunt and cousin try and strong arm their way into this baby shower? This is not like any normal baby shower. This is a very specific and special occasion. The original poster literally lost their previous child, and they were so happy to finally have another baby on the way after years of trying. Those two people should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. And good for the mom and the daughter for deciding to stand up and say, no, absolutely not. Like, they even told him ahead of time that you cannot do this at my party. Like, wouldn't it be more appropriate to have your own party and get together? That way you can have your own spotlight and it really can be all about you. But no, they decide to literally bring their own cake and their own gifts just to try and make it all about them suddenly. Like, that's not okay. And as for the rest of the family being upset about this, fine, be upset. If they can't see that this is a special day of some kind, then they are the ones with the problem, not you. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for wanting to cut my father out of my life? To start things out, I'm going to admit that I am very young. I'm a 15-year-old female, and I might be overreacting about this, but I still want to get some perspective. When my mom found out she was pregnant, she obviously told my father. Instead of my father being happy, he denied it was his and accused my mom of cheating. Fast forward, and I'm born. My great-grandma was there, my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side were there, even my grandparents on my father's side was there, but not my father. We got a DNA test to prove that I was his child, and my grandparents were ecstatic to actually be grandparents, but not my father. I would like to mention that my mother got married only once, and that was last year with a guy that she dated for 10 years. So when they split again, my father was not required to be present in my life. Fast forward to the point in my life where I finally started remembering things. My mom had gotten pregnant with a man that didn't throw her out. I am sure that this guy is actually my dad, but every time I called him that, he said no. My sibling is born and I am happy. However, things take a turn. My mom started noticing that I acted different from other kids, and my mom took me to a doctor. I was diagnosed with ADHD, OCD, and autistic tendencies, which is like autism but not completely. I still have problems with sarcasm and emotions to this day. This was a deal breaker for my sibling's father, and he kicked us out saying he would visit my sister, which only happened once, as he now lives in Florida. We ended up homeless, and my father still did the minimum. And no, he didn't take us in. He just paid $50 extra for the child support. We ended up with my great-grandma, where she slept on a recliner, my mom and sister slept on the bed, and I slept on the couch. The place we were staying at was only a one-bedroom apartment. We moved out and into a house thanks to my amazing mother. She met a man who has done more for me than my father ever has. At this point, I think my father is no longer alive. I thought this honestly for 2 years. I'm with my grandparents on his side, whom I see almost every week. They tell me that he's not passed away, and they let me call him. This was in the 3rd grade. I talk to him more often, but I recently came to realize that all my problems were his fault. He doesn't pay enough child support to actually support me, which was proven when I had to go a week only eating school food and leftovers from my neighbors. He stopped calling me again, and I'm considering just cutting him off. He didn't send money when I told him about my food problems at home. He showed little to no sympathy for me when I attempted ending it, and he puts little to no effort in our relationship. I want to cut him off, but I still want the relationship with my grandparents. They mean the world to me, and I love my mom and stepdad. I fear ending relationships with my father will sever my family's relationship with them too, not just mine. Am I overreacting in this situation? What should I do? This is a really tricky situation because it sounds like this is something that runs a lot deeper than just your own experience. It sounds like when it was time for your dad to actually be your dad, he did not step up to the plate and instead ran away. And I think, in my opinion, that's all I would ever need to know in order for me me to understand who my dad really was. And it sounds like from my perspective of just what we've heard, he's not a very good person. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for deciding to cut him off. If I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. But I completely understand your other perspective too. You don't want to ruin the relationships you have with your grandparents. So whatever you decide to do, I hope it all works out for you, because this is a really tricky situation no matter how you look at it. An entitled woman intentionally puts her own hair in her food, all so she wouldn't have to pay her bill of $130. Last night was my last training night as a server with my restaurant, which basically meant I did everything that night with my trainer following me around and making sure I didn't mess up. So I go up to this table, introducing myself and my trainer, and we start walking this woman with her 3 kids through the menu. She says that it's her first time here repeatedly, and she apparently lost her reading glasses, so we have to coach her through everything. So my trainer and I tag team the situation. My trainer takes the lady who can't really read without her glasses, and I take the 3 teenagers to get their orders. Eventually, everybody at the table settles on some food and we get some orders. Someone else ends up bringing the food out, and the person who's bringing the food out is bald. We checked on her table afterwards, and she said everything tastes great. As I'm checking on another table later, I see her waving me over, asking me to come over to her table. It's at that moment she shows me these 3 black long strands of hair, all of which that's in her food. I apologize and run the plate to my manager and let him know the situation. My trainer and I start talking, and we both have light hair, and my trainer's hair is in a tight military bun. So then we try to find out who ran the food out, and that's when we confirm that the person who did it is bald. So at that point, we start going down the line of just about everybody in the restaurant who could have possibly touched her food. And one by one, we confirm that none of the people on our line or in our staff had hair that matched the description. And that's when our suspicions raised that this woman actually just put her own hair in the food so that she could get her money back. And that's exactly what happens. This woman gets her entire check comped and then goes through the effort to get our attention as she leaves and gives us each $1 on what would have been a $130 bill. She then tries to tell us how we were great with our service and all this other stuff. But at this point, all of the staff know that it's her own hair that she put in the food and that she honestly just didn't want to pay for it. They walked away getting a free meal, and I wish I could have been able to call them out on it. I wish you could have called them out on it too, because that's just such a ridiculous situation. This lady ripped her own hair out of her head just so she could get a free meal. No one else on staff fit the description of having that type of hair except for the lady sitting in front of the plate. And while they couldn't obviously confirm that, hey, you put your own hair in this food, just by the process of elimination, they could pretty much confirm that, hey, it has to be your own hair, which is honestly just a terrible situation to be in regardless. Because how can you prove otherwise? This lady could probably freak out and start losing her mind in this restaurant if you didn't comp the meal. So it truly was a situation where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. That restaurant should honestly think about getting some cameras to try and prove if this actually happened in the future. That way they can probably save more money and they won't lose $130 for a meal, all because some lady lied and stuffed her own hair in the food. I have been betrayed by my daughter, my partner, as well as my housemate, and I don't know what to do about it. So I live with my partner, my daughter, and my partner's best mate. We have been together for a year and a half, and things have always been pretty good. His mate and I don't see eye to eye. In fact, he has never liked me since he moved in. He is very lazy, is leeching off my partner, and taking advantage of him. I have spoken to my partner plenty of times about this, but he says it's his mate and he needs to help him. My partner and I both work full-time jobs, and neither of the other two work. I do all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, everything for all 4 of us. I will cook a massive roast dinner, and they will all sit and eat it, but I'm left with all the dishes and the cleaning up. I have tried leaving it, but after 2 days, my OCD kicks in and I have to clean it. I'm just so exhausted. Countless times I've asked for help, but I've gotten none. My partner doesn't like confrontation, so he just makes a joke about it and then nothing else. The last 6 months, it's gotten worse, and I feel very unsupported by my partner, and even to the point where he will side with them. My daughter is very clingy and has anxiety. I have to beg for time for my partner and I to have alone because my daughter is always with us. If we go out for dinner, she is there. What I have found recently though is that the 2 of them have been going out without me and just going and doing stuff for hours. For instance, I will ask her to go to the shop or get something and he will offer to drive her or to go with her, and they will just get whatever, go visit friends, go for a drive, stop at the pub for a drink, and then come home 2 hours later. All the while, I've been at home cooking and cleaning or just sitting around. I have asked time and time again that it stops, but they just say they never plan to and that it all just kind of happens out of nowhere. My daughter and I were close and have been through a lot together. She knows how much this hurts me, and yet she continues to do it. So last night they were out, and 3 hours later they come home with his mate. When I said that I didn't realize that my partner's mate had been out, they said that they passed him a few blocks away walking, and honestly this is kind of normal. Well, I come to find out that they left an hour later and he snuck out and they picked him up around the corner, and they all went out to the local club for a few drinks. I read the messages between the mate and my daughter. She is going on about sneaking out to come hang out with them, that I've been such a terrible person and that they should just forget about me, that apparently I'm boring and that all I care about is that the house is clean. He responded with a "yeah, I agree," and that we didn't like each other anyway, stuff like that. My partner was even in on this. He was there and then lied to me about what happened when they got home. I feel so betrayed and like I'm the laughingstock of this group. I found out also that this is not the first time that this has happened. Do I leave? Do I pull my partner aside and give them an ultimatum? What should I do? This is a super toxic situation. To have not only your daughter, but other people in the house that you're living with, not only completely ignore the needs of the house, but then ignore the fact that you are basically the only reason that this house is even presentable is really not okay. And the fact that your partner is in on this and lied to you about all this stuff is also a super big red flag. The original poster went on to say that they woke their partner up to talk to them about all that was going on. They asked them, "Do you love me? And do you want a future with me?" In which the partner responded, "Yes." The original poster goes on to say that they know about all the things that happened last night and that they blatantly do not want their mate staying with them any longer. And this partner told them to just stop it, rolled over, and went back to sleep. And as of their last update, they're packing their car and they're currently planning on leaving. Honestly, good for them. It's clear that the partner is not taking this seriously. They can say that they love them, but they're clearly not showing it. So I think this is a fantastic move in the right direction. Hopefully everything works out, and hopefully the relationship with your daughter can somehow be mended and fixed in some way that's good for everybody involved. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. If you were in this situation, how would you handle it? Let us know. Today I messed up by cutting my own bangs, and now my hair looks terrible. A couple of years ago, I decided I want bangs, mostly because I kept thinking about this certain hairstyle that I saw. So I cut it myself to a length that would look cute untucked, but still be tuckable in case it turns ugly. It's basically curtain bangs, but less noticeable and requires less maintenance. It's not the best when it comes to looks, but it's still okay. It does the job of bringing more flair to my round face. Eventually, they grow past my shoulders, so it was time to cut it again. The first time, it turned out okay. It came out better than the first attempt. Then today, I realized that I would be around some more people. While I don't usually like the spotlight, I didn't want to fall in the background. So that's when I made the decision that today was going to be the day that I trim my hair. Previously, I finally gained the courage to offhandedly remark that I was interested in bangs to my mother, and when we went to cut our hair, she asked the hairstylist to give me side bangs. It wasn't noticeable. In fact, it kind of looked like my actual bangs that I did myself, but it was on the wrong part, so one bang was longer than the other, if that makes sense. Fast forward to today, and the one thing I needed to do while cutting my hair was even it out. The scissors I was going to use was outside, so I went to get it. I was impatient and I cut my hair without a mirror, and this proved to be a fatal wrong move. Just by seeing the pieces of the hair that I cut, I already knew that it was uneven. It's hard to explain. I went to my room that has a mirror and tried doing the other bang. It turned out better than the other one, but if you looked at both of them, you could tell that they were not straight. I didn't know what to do, so I put the scissors back and I tried to see what I could do to salvage my hair. With my hair down, you can tuck my bangs behind my ears and nothing looks super strange. But if you put it up in like a ponytail, only one can be tucked in. It's just a small thing, but oh my god, it annoys me. Thankfully, it'll be fine by the time school starts. And in the meantime, I think I'll look better with my hair down anyways. So the moral of the story, next time you want to cut your hair yourself, don't do it. I hate to be that guy, but I mean, did you expect anything less? You literally cut your own bangs without a mirror. What did you expect was gonna happen? Sometimes you can get lucky and try and figure it out just by looking up, I guess, but you should have used a mirror. You clearly got it right last time. Why would you risk it just because you're being impatient? Especially with something like hair. Overall though, I've been in this situation and it's a terrifying feeling. Having your hair look weird or kind of off, especially when you're in school, is just not a good feeling because you know somebody might say something. And that alone is more than enough to freak anybody out. So yeah, next time you want to cut your hair, maybe think about what you're doing, or at the bare minimum, make sure you have a mirror. Today I messed up by telling my boss's husband about her affair. I've been working at my job for almost 3 years now. It's a very small business and all of us are super close. years. Once a year, we all get together for our annual Christmas party, and when the drinks start going, everyone starts to spill the tea. It was my first year working there, and after many drinks at this Christmas party, I found out through my boss that she's having an affair and wasn't hiding it in any way, shape, or form. Even though I think cheating is awful, it was not my place nor any of my business to say anything, so I kept that information to myself. However, over the course of the next 2 years, she would bring this guy to work, come in on days where we were closed to have, quote, alone time with him, and generally just leaving things in disarray before people can get into the office. It was getting worse and worse, and every time I saw her husband, I felt sick to my stomach, knowing what I know. Fast forward to yesterday. One of our coworkers was getting married, and I was sat at the same table as my boss and her husband, along with my other coworkers. When her husband left to get a drink, she started to tell me about her crazy night with the other man, and I couldn't hold my feelings in anymore. I politely asked her if we would change the subject because I didn't feel comfortable talking about her affair while her husband was 10 feet away from us. She got visibly upset and ran off, and when her husband got back to the table, he asked why she was so upset. I lied and said maybe she just had one too many to drink, because again, it wasn't my place to say anything. I went to go to my boss, and when he left, I asked my coworkers at the table if I was wrong for what I said. They said no, but to maybe just let her rant next time and keep my opinions to myself to avoid any drama. My response was, I'm sorry, but it just feels wrong pretending I'm okay with cheating, especially when everyone at work knows about him. Everyone's jaw dropped, and I heard a voice from behind me saying, she's still seeing him? The voice behind me was her husband, and I didn't even see or hear him coming back to the table. Turns out that she has been seeing this guy for close to 10 years, and at one point her husband caught them and told her that if she ever talked to him again, they were over. I was mortified and just kept stammering because how do I answer that? He quickly got his things and left. Some of my coworkers are calling me a jerk, and to be honest, I definitely feel like one. I just potentially ended their marriage. I don't know how I even mend this situation, let alone if I still have a job after this. What do I do? You need to first take a deep breath and realize that this is not your fault. Any coworker who's saying that you're a jerk is a terrible person. I mean, honestly, let's actually look at this for a second and think about what actually just happened. This lady was publicly parading around the office, bragging about how she's basically cheating on her husband. Like if it wasn't you that was going to spill the beans, it was eventually going to be somebody else. This is a classic situation of you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. And in this case, she won a very stupid prize. And you didn't do this. She did this to herself. She sunk her own marriage by deciding to go behind her husband's back. And that is not your fault. So I wouldn't feel bad about this in the slightest. And I don't think it's right for you to have to keep someone else's secret that is so damaging and detrimental. Like you have no obligation to these people in any way, shape, or form. At the end of the day, they are just coworkers. Like I'm pretty sure your job description did not include keep your boss's secret affairs. If they want to try and fire you, they better have a good reason. Otherwise, I smell a lawsuit personally. But all in all, I'm really sorry this situation happened. And if anything, I would probably look for a better job because your coworkers as well as your boss don't sound like the best people. And I think you would probably be a lot happier in a different situation. An entitled, enraged cop harasses me at my work, all because I got his order wrong at this restaurant. I had just moved to a new city, transferring to my new restaurant. I was a lead server previously, so they threw me into that role in this new place. The only manager on at the time was a tiny pregnant woman who was afraid of cops. This will be important later. It's the end of the night, I'm the only server, and somehow the restaurant fills up. We had a party of 20, and then 5 other tables walk in within minutes of each other. One of the smaller tables had a cop, his wife, and their 8 to 10-year-old kid. I bring out waters for all my tables as quickly as I can and start taking orders. This cop is already super upset with me that I'm not moving faster. But whatever, I can only move so fast. He orders a heavily modified chicken sandwich from our menu. Eventually, we get his food out, and the chicken sandwich has the wrong cheese on it. And this was just enough for him to lose his mind. He starts yelling at me about how terrible of a server I am and how I should just learn to do my job better. He even follows me through the doors of the kitchen to scream at the cooks, who then throw the blame squarely on me. I should have apparently checked the sandwich before it left the kitchen. The cop follows me back out to the dining room, and I'm trying to ignore him and keep working, but he's following me to my tables and telling all of the people at my tables that they better not tip me or he was gonna do something to them, basically giving some kind of veiled threat. He also told them that I should just quit my job and start doing a night job, if you know what I mean. All because I'm apparently so bad at my day job. He stayed on my tail for a while, talking garbage about me the entire time. I couldn't figure out what to do. Do I call the cops on a cop? My manager was hiding in the office, and the cooks already threw me under the bus, so I just sucked it up and kept working. Eventually, all my tables had their food, and the cop gave up on harassing me. He went out to the car to wait for his family. His wife paid the bill, tipped, and they left all their food untouched on the table. As soon as he was gone, I collapsed in the kitchen, crying my eyes out. I'd been putting on a brave face the whole time, but I couldn't take it anymore. They were those hiccuping sobs where you can't quite catch your breath in between trying to breathe. I calmed down some, and I tried to put on a brave face to finish service, but the tears kept flowing silently down my face, and I couldn't make eye contact with any of my guests. Half of my tables really didn't leave any tip at all. From that whole round, I made less than $50. It was my worst experience in a restaurant. Even now, after 23 years in the industry, I honestly felt completely and utterly helpless. That is a terrible situation to be stuck in. I can't believe that people would treat someone else like this over a sandwich. This isn't some 5-star restaurant where you can expect perfection. From the sounds of it, it was probably just some diner where these people were really just trying to make ends meet in their life. And it's bad enough they got to put up with all these people and be the only person taking care of them, only to then have some terrible cop run around harassing you the entire night. I mean, what kind of person would do that? The worst part about it is that I know exactly what this situation is like. I have experienced that firsthand from people when they try and get in your face and tell you that you don't know what you're doing with your job. From the sounds of it, it was an honest mistake. If the wrong cheese was on the chicken sandwich, you know what you say? Hey, could I get this again but with the correct cheese? And then point to what you actually wanted. And then miraculously, the problem will be solved. Like, people make mistakes. This lady had all these people to take care of, so it was bound to happen to somebody eventually. That's a lot of people to take care of, all on your own. Overall, it's really a nasty situation, and it just really sucks. If I was the lady in this situation, I 100% would have called the police station and reported this behavior immediately. I don't care if this person was a cop, a paramedic, a firefighter, or a doctor, or the president. This type of behavior is not acceptable. It's straight up harassment, and it is pretty telling that the manager decided to stay in the back and hide from this cop. If you can't be a manager at the worst times, you shouldn't be a manager at the best times, in my opinion. So I really feel bad for this lady, and I'm so sorry that they went through this. And hopefully, eventually, they can find a better job that will actually have people that will stand up and support them when things go wrong. Today, I messed up by letting my husband buy a motorcycle. My husband decided that after he got a new job, he would need a new vehicle since our schedules would not work to use only one car at the same time anymore. Just to add, my husband is 5'4", around 200 pounds, and he's a little bit on the chubby side. He wanted a motorcycle for a long time, and I thought, why not buy it and let him use it to get to work? We can have fun and we can spend less money than we would on a new car. Well, that's what I thought, at least. I don't really understand much about motorcycles, so I let him choose whatever he wanted. I trust he had some knowledge of what he was doing, and I saw him doing a lot of research before he settled on one. So I blindly swiped the card, and we happily spent this money together so that he could get a motorcycle. A month passes by, and today, the day before he starts his new job, the motorcycle arrives. And needless to say, this motorcycle is small. And when I say small, I mean that the two wheels are smaller than regular ones. If you stand next to it, it goes as high as your thighs. It is not something you can take on the highway, and I doubt it could go more than 60 miles an hour, much less use for your daily work commute. I looked at his face, square in his eyes, and asked him what he was thinking when he bought this one. He answered me by saying that he's not that tall, and so he didn't want to have trouble getting on the bike, and that's why he got this one. Yes, he isn't 6 foot, but was it really necessary to buy a kid-sized motorcycle? Now we have this useless bike one day before he starts his new job, and I'm wondering if I married a clown. This is such a tragic situation because I know for a fact that these motorcycles that are just normal sized are pretty easy to get on. Like, he very easily could have gotten a bike even at his height and still gotten on and off of it no problem. What they are describing is so tiny, it is legitimately what you would see in a circus. Like, I can actually imagine some big clown sitting on this tiny motorcycle in their entire clown getup, driving around a circus ring, entertaining a crowd of people. Like, this is really really funny to me. What on earth was this guy thinking? This probably cost them so much money, and now they literally just threw that down the drain because of this situation. It's like he didn't even consider the fact that he needs to commute and go on the highway to do this. Now, if you know motorcycles, you know that it can actually save you quite a bit of money if you do it correctly. But riding around on a small kid-sized motorcycle is not going to be the way to do it. So I feel really bad for the original poster and their husband, because the process of returning this miniature motorcycle and getting your money back is most likely going to be a nightmare. Today I messed up by staying at a hotel, not checking the sheets, and getting bed bug bites. It was an absolute nightmare. This happened 30 hours ago. We arrived at our weekend getaway yesterday evening. I was very excited, as last time I tried to have a weekend getaway, it ended in discovering our Airbnb had bed bugs. To give more context, we discovered the bed bugs at the very end of that previous trip. I had developed multiple small red bumps, which later turned into large itchy welts. I'd had bed bugs before in college, but dismissed checking the beds. It was a living nightmare, and it's something that I'll never make the mistake about again. Or so I thought. On this current trip, we get to the hotel last night, and I tell everyone to check their beds. I tell everybody to not put their shoes or their bags on the floor or the chairs. I pulled apart the top sheet, both blankets, another top sheet, a fitted sheet, and the mattress pad. I dug into every mattress crevice on all corners of the bed. I make it down to the final layer before the bed frame and pulled each side up as best as I could. I decide I'm content and that I should stop being so anxious again, especially after my previous experience. Fast forward to this afternoon. I notice a small red bump developing. Dismissing it, I say, well, it's only one spot. Usually they bite in 3s or 4s. Hours later, I see a second bump pop up, and the first one starts getting very itchy and very swollen. Oh God, not again. We get back to the hotel and everyone is saying I'm crazy, saying they don't have bites and that it's probably just mosquito bites since it's summer and we have been outside most of the day. They say I checked the beds thoroughly last night and have nothing to worry about. I told them it's the same marks and the same itchiness I just had on my last trip. I say I'm not sleeping until we check the beds again. So we check everything again. We get down to the mattress, but this time we see blood tracks. I start to lose it. We keep going and get down to the final layer right before the bed frame. We completely tear off that layer, and lo and behold, we find the little mutants. I immediately start losing my mind. Here comes all of the anxiety and stress all over again. We are 8+ hours from home, and the family that I came with drove their car and refused to drive back tonight, which I don't blame them, to be honest. I say we have to get a different room, and the hotel has to inspect it right in front of us. So here I am, sitting on another bed that we checked thoroughly, including the bottom skirt and bed frame. I doubt I'll sleep tonight, but I dread the precautions I'll have to stress about and take yet again while I try to enjoy my final hours of vacation. Getting bed bugs from a hotel is literally a nightmare. Like, imagine you spend all this money to go on a trip and to spend some time with your family, only to then have your entire plans ruined by bed bugs. And those little freaks are no joke. Getting rid of bed bugs is a nightmare. They get in everything and anything that has a fabric surface, and then some. So if you have it in your bed, there's a good chance you probably have to get another bed. There is treatment options to get rid of it, but man, it is a nightmare. The original poster goes on to say that they did not get any bed bugs on their first trip, nor did they get any on their second trip. It looks like they just got some bites. They also said that thankfully they did not bring it home with them, so it's not something they have to deal with at home. Overall though, this is kind of a nightmare situation, and I hope nobody listening ever has to deal with this in their life. My girlfriend is mad at me after she found out another girl took care of me when I got really sick. About a month ago, I went on a trip with my friends to Vegas for a weekend by car. It was me and 3 friends, all around the same age. It was a guy and a girl who were dating, me and another girl. My girlfriend couldn't come because she had to study for medical school, which is understandable. We decided to get 2 rooms instead of 3 just to save money. I was staying in the same room as the girl who was single, and my friend and his girlfriend stayed in a different room. On our drive up to Vegas, I bought a sandwich from a gas station and started feeling really sick. We got to Vegas at around 9 o'clock on a Friday night, and we just checked in to sleep, and I was feeling really sick, and I just laid in bed. It was fine until I started puking uncontrollably into the toilet. I felt really weak, but I thought I was done puking and tried to get up, but I collapsed and puked all over myself and the floor. It was a terrible mess. I was really weak and couldn't get myself up, so my friend had to drag me away from the puddle and take off my clothes and carry me into the shower to rinse me off. She also cleaned the floor and made a barf bag for me to puke into next to my bed. My friend gets me some Gatorade and I fall asleep, I think at around 3 in the morning. The next day, I wake up at around lunchtime and I'm still feeling weak, but a little bit better. So I told my friend not to worry about me and to just go to the casino with our other friends, but she insisted and took care of me the entire day. I was pretty much better at dinner, so we went out to a French restaurant, and I was almost completely better on Sunday, so we all overall had a blast. When I got back, I just told my girlfriend I got sick and puked all over the place, so I couldn't really enjoy Saturday. Well, yesterday I went out with the same group of friends to an outlet mall and brought my girlfriend along with me. My friend who was in the room with me brings up the puke story when my girlfriend, her, and I are sitting on a bench and talked about how she had to rinse me in the shower, and I could see my girlfriend starting to get incredibly upset. My girlfriend was even acting really surprised and asking for more specific details. After our time at the mall, the car ride home was really not fun. She was half crying, half pissed, saying I cheated on her when I really didn't. When I was being rinsed in the shower, I had no control over that, and nothing nefarious happened. I personally think that taking care of someone while they are sick was a normal thing to do, and I did not think that this would be such a big deal. At the time, I needed someone to help me clean up, and my male friend was probably sleeping anyways. My female friend who was with me was the only one that could help me. Now my girlfriend won't even talk to me, and I don't know what to do. I can see both sides of this, because I definitely understand that if you're sick and someone's helping you out, there's nothing sketchy or like behind the back that's going on. I think it's no different than a nurse helping out a patient that's in a hospital that can't take care of themselves, and so they need somebody else to help them, to clean them up, etc. And based on what was being described, this interaction was very similar to this. What the guy is not getting in this situation is the fact that he should have told his girlfriend about this very situation immediately upon it happening. Like, the first thing he should have explained was not only that, hey, I threw up all of Saturday and I was feeling very sick, but also, hey, I threw up and my female friend hosed me off in a shower to clean me up. That's a very important detail that you really can't leave out. So I completely understand why the girlfriend is incredibly enraged and upset over this. I think anything else could be understandable, but the fact that you hid this from your girlfriend is probably what's most upsetting to her. It's just really shady behavior. And it's also a little weird that you shared a room with another female while the other group of people that were going were a couple. Like, I don't know, if I had my girlfriend and she wasn't able to make it, I would personally want a room with a guy friend just to avoid any kind of speculation or confrontation. I wouldn't even want the appearance that anything weird is going on. That's just me personally. Overall though, I think you kind of messed up by hiding this from your girlfriend, and you should apologize and try and do anything you can to make things right. But what do you think? What would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. Today I messed up by sleeping through my exam. I haven't been sleeping well for the past few days. I'm a first year studying maths and physics, and I had a 3-hour mathematical analysis exam worth 60% of my module at 9:30 in the morning. It was at 1:30 in the morning I had reached the point where I was in a state of delirium. It felt like the world around me was disappearing, and I was convinced that I was having conversations with people that were not there. I started drifting off, but would have muscle spasms keeping me awake. Eventually, I did manage to fall asleep. I had set 4 alarms to make sure I was awake in the morning. The first one went off, I turned it off, and thought to myself, just a few more minutes. Well, I end up waking back up and checking the time on my phone, and it was 12:03 in the afternoon. I had slept through the rest of my alarms. The exam would be over in 23 minutes. By the time I would have gotten there, it would already be over, and they don't let students in or out during the last 15 minutes anyways. So now I'm going to have to do a resit next year, where I'm only allowed to have a maximum score of a pass. I'm trying to look on the bright side that it's only my first year and it doesn't contribute much to my final grade, but I'm still so angry with myself. I wouldn't feel too bad about this. I've done this exact same thing, and yeah, it sucks, but you can get through it. I had a final exam at 9 o'clock, very similar to this story, and I ended up showing up at 10 o'clock instead. I was so scared that I was about to fail this exam, and I thought that I didn't have enough time, but it ended up working out. But for this original poster, why on earth did you stay up until 1:30 in the morning? Especially if you have such an important exam the next day. This exam was 60% of your grade. You have to take better care of yourself and plan for these types of things. Your best bet might be to just go to the professor and fall at their knees and say, what can I do to make this better? If a resit is all you can do, then that's all you can do. Just take the passing grade and study like crazy to make sure you pass. Otherwise, this will legitimately be all for nothing. So the next time you pull an all-nighter and stay up well past 1:30 in the morning trying to study for your final exam, make sure you have a lot more alarms than just 4, especially if you're going to sleep through it and possibly tank your grade. My husband earns more than me and belittles my method of working as well as my work itself, and I don't know what to do. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, and we've been together for 4. My husband works in the music industry, and I work as a lawyer. I'm presently in the beginning stages of my career, and have only worked for 3 years post-graduating. My husband, on the other hand, has been working in the industry since his teenage years, and is well established and respected in his field. His work requires him to travel once or twice a week, and his payments are per gig. However, he has to practice and hone his skills on days he doesn't have to go to work. His travel to and from his place of work is paid for and handily by whoever hires him. I work 6 days a week and earn a salary. I work in litigation, so I have long hours and have to travel quite far for my work using public transportation, as we live pretty far from the city. My husband earns in a day what I earn in a month. We don't split our household bills. Either one of us typically pays it. We are in no way struggling with our finances, and I would say we are quite comfortable, meaning that my salary would also be sufficient to maintain our current lifestyle, but there is quite a big gap in our pay. The problem at hand is that both of us have different styles of working. He likes to sit down and not get up till he's done with all of his work, no matter how long it takes. I like dividing my work into small segments, and I tend to work for 2 to 3 hours or so, while taking 15 to 20-minute breaks. My work requires a lot of reading and interpretation and staring at a screen. I tend to get tired due to the strain on my eyes, and I need to take breaks just to make sure I can get through the day. My husband has told me multiple times to just quit my job because he thinks it's a draining job that doesn't even pay well. I have spent quite a lot of time studying to quit now. He also said multiple times that he makes in a day what I make in a month. So what's really the point? Today, I was quite swamped with work that was pending for quite a few days, all because of delay in input from my client, and it was expected that the work would be finished by tonight, the same day that the input was received. So after working for about 2 hours, I took a break and my husband asked me if I would like to go out to meet his parents for a few hours. Now, I know that the trip to his parents' house will take at least 3 hours, and that would put me behind schedule for work, and so that's what I told him. He got really mad at me and told me that I should not be taking breaks if I'm so burdened with work, and went on to say that when he has work, he can work for 12 hours straight, and I should do the same and should have finished the work by now. We got into a huge argument, and I told him he doesn't understand my work and that his work doesn't require as much analysis as mine does. Obviously, this was unfair for me to say, but then he went on to say that if my job was so difficult, why was the pay so low, and that he could just work 1 extra day and make the same amount. We haven't spoken to each other for a few hours now, and I don't know what to feel. I feel like he doesn't respect my job. How do I explain to him that he was absolutely in the wrong, and it made me feel very insufficient? What should I do? That is really terrible that your husband is treating you like that. I could imagine it's already hard enough being a lawyer with having to read and interpret so many complicated documents, trying to navigate all these nuanced details and all these clauses that come along with it. That must be absolutely exhausting. So your method of work absolutely makes sense to me. Working for 2 to 3 hours and then giving yourself a break every 15 to 20 minutes, especially with the workload you're describing, makes a lot of sense. It's really surprising to me that your husband would act the way he is. I mean, good for him. He makes a lot of money every single day, and that's a fantastic accomplishment. But that does not mean that you should put down your wife just because she has a job that's a little bit different than you. It's just a super immature way of handling a situation, especially when he's comparing the fact that he can do as much in 1 day as you do in a month, and then repeatedly telling you that. That is honestly just belittling, and nobody needs to feel that way. So I think some healthy communication between the two of you and letting him know exactly how you feel will probably go a really long way for both of y'all. And hopefully things work out and he's able to see that he shouldn't act this way. My entitled mother, who treated me so badly growing up, is demanding that I take out a $1 million mortgage just so she can get a new home. And after I refuse to give her the money, she goes off on me. So a little background about me. I am an only child. My parents divorced when I was about 10, and I've never had a good relationship with my mother. As per my mother, I didn't even like being held by her as an infant. I lived with her until I was 18 and couldn't handle living with her any longer, and so I moved in with my father. I admit I was a horrible teenager to my mother, and we fought all the time. It was either that or we just simply wouldn't talk to each other. I just wanted to be left alone, and she wanted to be my best friend. I now own a condo, I have no debt, I have a savings of my own, and I live a lifestyle more on the frugal side. My mom, on the other hand, grew up very wealthy and spent spent the entirety of her rather substantial trust fund. She has a history of credit card debt, and while she did work, she doesn't really have any real retirement fund and is now living off of her deceased parents' trust, where she gets a big chunk of money every year. Despite living in the same city, I would only see her a few times at most per year, mainly holidays. I'll admit I was never exactly warm during those interactions, and she would make comments about how she knows how much it pains me to be around her. I'd make an effort to call her once a month, she'd almost never answer, and I'd sometimes get an email or a text message in response. I feel she is highly critical and has a history of emotional blackmail and has narcissistic tendencies. Her comments are only because apparently she cares, and that she wouldn't be my mother if she didn't say anything. Basically, she's expressing her concerns if I had children, because they'd be more screwed up than me apparently. It's constantly a situation where I give an inch and she always wants a mile. So during early COVID, I get a call from her wanting to discuss something. Basically, she wants to sign a purchasing contract and mortgage papers for a yet-to-be constructed home. Since she's retired and her income is from a trust, she can't get a loan for the deposit, and she doesn't have cash. Now, I personally know of a few very costly things she spent her money on in the last few years that I don't agree with, but it did not impact me, so I did not mind. She owns her home, but doesn't want to sell it prior to building the new one, so she wants me to take out a mortgage of over $1 million with early access of $120,000 in the deposit. But as per her, apparently it'll be fine because the home will be in my name and she'll make payments till she sells her home. This supposed discussion I was having with my mom was so well thought out that I was told that a contract was being drafted and that I needed to make an appointment with my bank to get things going. For a brief moment, I considered lending her the cash, but then I would be broke. Also, I have no trust when it comes to finances, and my mother due to her history. So after using my brain and consulting with a few people who can be objective, I told her unfortunately I was not in a position to help her. Then the insults start on how I'm consulting with the wrong people and that these people clearly aren't educated and that I'm passing up on a good opportunity for my credit. And of course, it's because of me she lost out on this new home. She then, because of this, refused to talk to me, as this was apparently the final straw in our very fragile relationship. I tried to contact her for many months, maybe over a year, until I told her I was moving countries and I wanted to try and make some repairs to our relationship before I left. We did sit down and talk prior to me leaving, but not about this home she was trying to build. I'm trying to be civil, but after so many years of her comments, it's really hard. This is such a sketchy situation because this person knows for a fact that their mom is probably going to screw them over somehow. Like, no lie, they clearly have no good intentions when it comes to their own history of credit card debt, and I very seriously doubt that they would actually pay for things on time. And worst of all, the original poster would be on the hook for any of these payments. And then let's say that she doesn't start doing her payments like she should, and then she's stuck in the home you built for her that you now have to try and figure out how to get her out of. In my opinion, not giving her this money was probably the best decision you could have ever made, because I honestly think having to deal with this lady on a daily basis would have been an absolute living nightmare for this person. Thankfully though, they made the right decision and didn't give this money to their mom, because you can bet she absolutely would have been careless with it like she has in the past. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not being the ideal son? Okay, so before this starts, I want to say that all I want to do is know if I'm in the wrong here. So a few months ago, I realized that there are about 3 people in my life who really care about my feelings and what I think. Everyone else has their own perception of me that I feel are very inaccurate. I have also felt that they don't think I care what people say to me because I always seem to have no emotions when they start saying garbage about me. I started feeling this when my mom was yelling at me for getting a 79% for the first time at school, and I said that I was overwhelmed and that no one really cares about my emotions. She then replies with, "Don't use that mental health garbage as an excuse for your own stupidity." And that's honestly when I knew people didn't even know me at all. After that, I was noticing everything that was being said about me, and all of it always had something meant to hurt me. This still happens today, and it's been 6 months since I noticed this. This has really affected me, and I haven't been able to sleep well or have any ambition or motivation. I also don't think this will stop for a long time because I have trouble talking to people in arguments. Since the first incident, this has happened way more frequently, and I always feel worse after it's over. I'm starting to think my parents enjoy yelling at me and all my friends, as if I'm just a verbal punching bag instead of someone with actual emotions and free thought. You might have thought that maybe this was the worst of it, but no, it isn't. My parents have also decided that they don't want me to have a personality. They have tried to enforce this by taking everything that's keeping me sane and somewhat happy. I just feel like I am in a 10-foot hole that everyone is telling me to get out of, but I have nothing to climb out with. With everything piling on top of me, it feels like everyone wants me to feel bad about myself, especially my parents. They seem to have done everything to keep me in this mental state. They also yell at me for really petty reasons, sometimes yelling at me for even going in the basement without asking for permission, which, by the way, I don't need permission for that. They'll call me a pig because I made a homemade pizza and I took a slightly bigger piece of dough because I was hungry. By the way, I'm 5 pounds underweight. They yell at me for not doing my chores when I was in the middle of doing a chore that they were aware of. They also like to yell at me because of a school assignment that's due in a week. They have claimed that they don't understand me and have almost hired a psychologist because they gave up after 5 minutes of trying to figure me out. So yeah, everyone is making me feel like one big screw up and a giant mistake, and I don't know what to do. I really feel bad for the original poster in this situation because it sounds like they're really going through a rough time with their parents. And based on what you've told us, it sounds like your parents are not very helpful, and in fact, they're doing things that are really detrimental towards your own mental health. I've been in that situation, and I know a lot of other people who have been in that situation, and although your parents are kind of actively working against you, you can still find ways to find happiness and light in your own life. I know personally, hanging out with friends or even doing something outside of home, even if it's just reading a book or spending time doing a hobby that I enjoy, really does help me mentally escape the situation I'm in. Whether it's video games or going for a walk, anything to escape that situation is great. I really am so sorry that your parents are treating you so poorly, and I think it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe even talk to the school counselor of some kind to maybe discuss these issues. I've learned that maybe talking things out, even with somebody who can be objectively neutral, really does make a big difference. But overall, hang in there, you're doing great, and just keep on the path. Things will get better, and I really believe that things can and will get better for you. My entitled in-laws try to blame their increased mortgage on my wife and kids living with them. The title says it all. Now, you may be scratching your heads on this one, as I am. To my understanding, a mortgage is something you establish between you, whichever other parties live at the property in question, and the loan office. I mean, please, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm also aware that with the economy being in turmoil as it is, interest rates and general payments are going up. So the fact that these people are blaming a fixed rate loan going up in regular payment requirements because a few bodies are added to the mix is absolutely ridiculous. Electricity and water bill going up? That I can understand. But saying, oh, our loan we took out for the house went up and it's your fault, so you have to pay us more. That is simply criminal in my mind. When my wife brought this to my attention, I flat out told her to not give them another dime more than what we agreed upon. They have been stealing from us the entire time that we've been there, and I am not a wallet that they can pull from. Neither is my wife, nor is my kid. Their antics when it comes to arbitrarily charging us extra for their loan has delayed us getting out of there in the first place for several months. If they really take issue with this, then I will happily get involved and share some words with them. If they don't, and I know they probably won't, then they can go pound sand. Like it or not, they will not bully me, my wife, or my child for another penny. I don't care what it takes. Good for them for standing up for this kind of situation. And yeah, according to my knowledge, the number of people living in a house does not change your mortgage price. Like, it literally does not work that way. And the original poster has it correct. The utilities and any other stuff that may be going up as a result of them living there is completely understandable. And yes, I'm sure the people living there would absolutely feel fine paying for what they need to pay for. But to try and pawn off your mortgage going up on the people that are living there and then to try and blame them for that mortgage going up is just completely, as they put it, criminal. And no, I wouldn't put up with that for another second either. It sounds like these people have tried to do this multiple times and have gotten away with charging them extra, which has delayed them leaving for months now, which from the sounds of it is probably what these people are trying to do to this family. They probably want them to stick around so they can use them as some kind of income source so that they can pay for their mortgage, which is just really gross in my opinion. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully this is just a misunderstanding. But either way, I hope the original poster and his family are able to get out of this house and find another place to live, because these in-laws are absolutely just trying to use them for money, and they're trying to squeeze them for every penny that they can possibly get. My friend wants to have a baby with a guy she's been talking to for 1 month, and I'm not sure what to do about this. I'm from the UK and I'm not sure what to do here. My best friend has been seeing this guy for just over a month now. She seems to like him, though sometimes mentions things he's done that have upset her in the past. I thought to include this as they're not together at the moment, just seeing each other, so to speak. Yesterday, my friend told me, and she was deadly serious, that she's thought about wanting a kid for a while and wants to try for one with this guy she's not dating and has only known for about a month. Apparently, she's asked the guy and he's decided to go for it and has even offered to leave his job and to move away with her. My friend is planning on moving to a foreign country and she has made this man aware of this. I don't know what to think about the whole thing. I'm convinced she's not thought about it properly, hence why she wants to do it with a guy she's known for a month. If I was in the guy's shoes and if I was being asked this by a girl I'd been talking to for such a short time, I would have run in the other direction. But this guy is the exact opposite. It's almost like he's happy to oblige and help her make this happen. I'm really worried about my friend and I'm not sure how to help. What should I do? This is a super sketchy situation because it sounds like your friend is really not thinking this through. I love babies just like anybody else, but that is a human being you're raising. This is a living, breathing thing that you cannot just get rid of. And babies are extremely expensive. Why on earth would you just jump into this on a whim, it seems like? And the worst part about it is you're going to a man that you've only met and have known for about a month. That's just crazy to me. You don't know anything about this guy at all. It'd be different if this is someone you've been dating for a long time and you both decided, hey, let's make this step and let's have a baby together. But you have just met this guy and he's going along with it. The original poster has it right. If someone came up to me and said, hey, I know we've only been dating for a month, but I want to have a baby, legitimately, I would have ran in the other direction. I would have cut this person out of my life completely and I would have said, no, there's no way that's happening. But the fact that this guy is not only okay with this happening, but willing to be a part of this, as well as being willing to move to another country with this lady, is super, super sketchy. This entire situation is just one big red flag and it is absolutely just weird. I think anything that you could do if you're legitimately this concerned is probably get her parents involved. Let them know exactly what's going on and say, hey, she's known this guy for a month and then suddenly she just wants to have a baby with him. And this guy is just willing to go along with it. Hopefully though, the original poster's friend comes to their senses and they're able to see that, hey, if I want to take care of something and love something, I should probably just get a pet or something to see how I could handle being a parent. Because having a kid is no joke and you got to make sure that you're ready to make that step. My girlfriend of almost 4 years cheated on me and now I don't know what to do next. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 4 years now and we've been living together for close to 3.5. We've had our ups and downs like any relationship over the years, but one thing we both maintained was that no matter what, we always talk to each other about our problems and work them out. The last 2 years were pretty rough with COVID as well as all the lockdowns and restrictions that were in place, but this year we started going out again and doing all the things that we used to do, like going out and having regular dates again. Just the other night we were out drinking at a cocktail bar and it was one of the best nights we've had in a long time. My wife started a new job back in March, which I encouraged her to go for, and she's been loving it ever since, and I've been so happy for her. However, the problems for me started because of her coworkers, all of whom were young single men or similar in age. We all had similar hobbies and such, and she even invited me to meet them and take part in the hobbies as well. They were all far more skilled than me, as well as my girlfriend, which at first didn't really bother me. A couple of weeks ago, she told me she wasn't planning to come home after work because they were doing extra staff training for a couple of new people that started late, and she felt it would be easier than finishing late and driving 40 minutes home just to go back early in the morning the next day. I obviously wasn't happy about it, and I told her that I wasn't happy with her sleeping arrangements, and if it was that much of a problem, that I'd drive to get her and take her to work in the morning myself. She declined my offer and said that it'll be fine and that she'll just sleep on the fold-out couch instead. So I just left it at that. Things got worse for me when a few days ago, she told me the exact same thing, saying that she was working late again and that she was going to have pizza as well as a few drinks with her work buddies. At about 11 o'clock at night, she texted me saying that she loved me, followed by a text from each of her work buddies, talking garbage, and it made me see red. All I felt was pure anger, and the worst part is, she didn't text me back to apologize or anything. We didn't talk until she came home the following evening, and I was angry the entire day. When I saw her, she had love bites on her neck, and I instantly confronted her. She told me she got drunk and slept with one of her work buddies, and I flipped out. I felt like my whole world just came crashing down on me because I knew something might happen, and I told her to come home and not stay the night, and she didn't want to. She wasn't even upset the night she told me this, and she told me that she didn't regret it and that she was unhappy for months. But to me, it just felt like excuses and her trying to justify what she did. Since Saturday night, she hasn't been working, and it was the first time she had alone time to think about what happened, and that's when she called me crying, breaking down, telling me she's sorry, and that she regrets it now, saying that she would be open to trying to fix things. Part of me still loves her and doesn't want to throw away 4 amazing years together. I spoke to some of my long-term friends, and I'm meeting another one tomorrow. My female best friend of almost 10 years thinks I should cut my ties and stop talking to her, saying that I should just kick her out of the house. My best male friend, on the other hand, thinks I should try and forgive her if I truly think she's been genuine with how she's feeling now. This entire situation just has me feeling completely gutted, so I'm not sure what to do. What's my next steps? Should I still try to work it out, or should I cut my losses and try and move on? This is a really tricky situation because your girlfriend cheated on you and doesn't regret it. She only regretted it once she had some alone time to really reflect on what she did. But let's not forget what she initially said. For me personally, it doesn't matter how long someone's been with me, cheating is an automatic deal breaker. That changes the game completely in my opinion. And I think this lady is only feeling bad because she got caught, as opposed to her actually feeling bad for doing something that went behind your back and ruined your relationship. So overall, there's a lot of options to think about, and hopefully you find the answer that's going to bring you the most peace in your life. After being together for 10 years, my partner won't marry me. My partner and I have been dating for 10 years. We started off as friends, then best friends, then finally dating. We have said I love you to each other for almost as long as we've been dating. We've been talking about marriage for about 8 or so years, and we've been living together for about 5 years now. But still, he hasn't proposed. It's not like I'm quietly waiting. We've talked about it a lot. He has made it clear on several occasions that he wants to be the one to propose. He also said he has anxiety and social anxiety, and that's contributing to all of it. But I also have anxiety, and honestly, this is just making it worse. I've made it clear that I'm not very traditional, and that we could go to a ring store together and then immediately drive over to the courthouse. I don't care about the wedding or a crazy proposal. I just want to marry him. He says he wants to marry me too, but now I'm afraid something is going on. I trust him not to lie to me or to cheat or anything. I don't think it's something that overt. Maybe even though he loves me and is faithful, he just doesn't want to marry me. He just may not realize it yet. I once gave him a year to propose, or I was going to be the one to propose. And he said again that he wanted to be the one to propose. So a year went by and there was still no proposal. I didn't end up proposing. However, because things kind of hit the fan within that year, I wanted to give him some wiggle room. But still, nothing. I love him more than I can really say, but the agony of feeling unwanted and then being questioned with, "Don't you trust me?" after 8 years of what feels like a huge broken promise simply sucks. I've talked to close friends about it and was told that between 6 to 8 months into the relationship is all it should really take to know where we're headed. They also told me their stories, as well as some other people's stories that they know, about other couples who were together for 10 or even 15 years that still ended up breaking up, all because he wouldn't propose. I just want to know what to do. I love him and I trust him, so I genuinely don't think he's just leading me on, but I just want some advice on what to do. I understand that there's a possibility that I'm being insensitive or overdramatic, but I'm not a robot, so my feelings aren't going to change overnight. What should I do? 10 years is a long time to be together and still not have the expectation of being married, especially since this relationship that's being described already has the expectation that they both want to get married, or at least that's what's being said, but it seems like no action is being taken to try and make that happen from the guy, which traditionally enough is typically the person that initiates it. It is sad that you had to set up some kind of ultimatum just to get your man to get a ring, and it sounds like even after this year deadline that you gave him, basically saying if you don't do it, I'm gonna propose, he still hasn't made the move. There's a lot of conclusions you can draw from this and a lot of assumptions that can be made, but I think it's time to have a really honest conversation with him. Otherwise, you're just gonna be waiting another 10 more years for something that is never gonna happen. Maybe there's too much pressure on the situation, maybe he just doesn't feel ready, but then again, you live together and you've already been together for 10 years. Logically speaking, what really is going to change if you're both married? And I believe you when you say that he's not cheating on you. There's nothing that you've mentioned that would even suggest that that's even happening. So it's definitely a situation of, well, what's going on? But whatever you decide to do, I hope it works out, because 10 years down the drain, all because your partner doesn't want to get married, especially when this is something that you've both discussed that you both want, would be an awful situation to have to deal with. My parents still owe me $10,000 and I don't know how to talk to them about this. Ever since I could start making money, I started saving. By the time I was 16 years old, I had bought my first car with cash and still had $1,500 in my savings account with a full-time job and a second part-time job. My parents had full access to this account because I was still a minor. When I was 17, my family took a trip that my parents couldn't afford. They asked me if they could use some of my savings and that they would pay me back afterwards. At the time, I agreed. Little did I know that they would use that as permission to take money out regularly, hundreds of dollars every month for 3 years. When I finally realized I stopped putting money in that account, I opened up a checking account and a new savings account at a different bank. The last time they took money out was August of last year. I was 20 at the time. I worked for them as well, and many times I would just not get paid. I always kept track of that, and I still know the exact amount they missed. I always kept track of how much I should have. In writing, every check, every payment, and every withdrawal I ever made, I kept a list. I knew exactly how much I should have in my account, and it was well over $10,000. And with that money, I wanted a new car. $18,000 was the cost, and by selling my other car, I had enough and then some. Or so I thought. When I went to check how much was in my first savings account, it was completely empty. I had nothing left in that account. There should have been $10,000 or more, and it was completely empty. I went straight to my parents and told them I wanted this new vehicle and asked them to help me pay for it because they still owed me money. They were reluctant at first and denied owing me so much, but I practically begged them to help. They finally did and paid the remainder of my work money, which was $3,000, and they bought my old car from me for about $5,000. I paid the rest with the money from my new savings account. I moved out last October, and when I brought up the money they owed me, I was told that they don't owe me more than $1,000 because they paid for my phone and car insurance while I was living with them, and they helped pay for my newest car. They never had rules about my bills, they just paid for it without a word otherwise. I am okay with deducting that from the total, but I'd rather not. It was money I made fairly, and they never told me I had to pay them anything, and I did offer to do so. And as for the car, they only paid off my work money, not even the money they took from me. In total, they owed me over $10,000. I have no idea how to bring this up and how I could even win this battle. I am personally looking to buy a house and have a wedding soon. That extra money would be extremely helpful, and our relationship is still rocky since I moved out. I don't want to make things worse, but it is a lot of money that I kind of need. What should I do? If you honestly documented all of these things and you have a complete timestamped list of all the times that they have absolutely taken money out of your account without your consent, then I would make a copy of that and then show them in detail and say, hey, these are all the times that you took money out of my account. And for them to suddenly say, hey, you had bills but you didn't even know it, is really unfair. It sounds like they just don't want to give you the money back, which is just really, really toxic. Like they were clearly using you as a piggy bank throughout your entire teenage years, and that is really unfortunate. I don't know if there's any way you could really get that money back without getting a lawyer involved, and getting a lawyer involved would be very, very expensive, and you would win, but at what cost kind of thing? Like, yeah, you would probably get the $10,000 back, but I'm pretty sure your parents would hate you forever. But if you really wanted to go that route, I think you've got a solid case on your hand potentially. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. But if you are serious enough where this has really been detrimental towards your future, then maybe looking at getting one wouldn't be a bad idea, if anything, just to get some advice. Although I don't know how far or how much a lawyer is going to be able to do for you when they did take money out of an account that technically had their name on it. That's probably the biggest bummer when it comes to working as a teenager, is the fact that if you have a bank account, your parents do have access to it. That's how it is in the United States. If you live overseas, let me know how it works over there. So technically, they're not in the wrong for taking money out of your account, even though it is absolutely morally wrong, and the way they're going about doing this is so toxic, it's not even funny. But either way, I really do hope you're able to get this money back in some way. Hopefully your parents come to their senses and they give you your money back, although I honestly don't see that ever happening. But don't give up hope. It might work out. You never know. You just got to keep at it and see if you can try and convince them to get this going. An entitled lady applies for a job and then gets upset when we don't hire her, even though she has no experience in this job. So I am the hiring manager at a neighborhood branch of a big library system. We get a lot of folks interested in working at the library for any number of reasons. Sometimes they truly love the mission, they have experience in education, but want to shift out of the classroom. Maybe they have an English degree and have no idea how to use them. Sometimes we just get people who apply because they live nearby. Maybe they just want to walk to work and our pay is decent. It's not great, but it gets it done. I do like hiring people with a connection to the community that we serve. But for me, when it comes to hiring, your reason has to be better than just an easy commute. I always try to be straight with people about their chances because we get a lot of applications for each job opening. If you don't have relevant experience or a related degree, it's probably not going to happen. I'm always happy to work with people on their resumes and get them hooked up with our volunteer department so they can get experience if that's what they want. I personally hire a lot of former volunteers at our library, especially young adults who were teen volunteers who needed their first real job. Sometimes I have to speak with people who applied and were not interviewed because they want feedback or they just want to complain to me. Whatever, it's part of the job and I'm always happy to give feedback. That is, if it will be utilized. One woman, we'll call Linda, that's not her real name, has applied for several jobs and has never been hired. She's a regular customer who's rude to my staff and who clearly doesn't know how to use a computer. Now, there is nothing wrong with being computer illiterate, but that's a lot of what we do. We help people with computers when they don't know how to use them. It is a key skill for our staff. Anyway, Linda demanded to know why I didn't interview her. I explained that we had had a lot of candidates who had worked or volunteered in the libraries before. She claimed that I was unfairly giving preference to candidates that have experience. I was honestly speechless at that point. What other metric am I supposed to use to hire people if not relevant experience? Overall, it was really just a weird situation, and I'm glad she's not part of our staff. It's crazy how entitled people can get when it comes to the hiring process. And this Linda lady is no different. Experience is such a big part of getting the job. That's like saying you're going to be an electrician without having any electrician experience. You probably have to go to school and get some kind of training to know what you're doing. And the lady in this story doesn't sound like she knows at all how to even use a computer. And she's been rude to the staff. If I was in the original poster's shoes, there's no way I would hire that lady. Why on earth would I want someone on the staff who's been rude to the people that I rub elbows with? No way and no thanks. So good luck to this Linda lady for even trying to get a job at this place. I think she might want to cut her losses and just start looking somewhere else, to be honest. My boyfriend is not making any effort to advance in life. Am I being too judgmental? We've been together for a year, and since we first met, he has been planning to go back to school this fall. However, when I confronted him about not yet registering for school, he got angry at me because he felt like I didn't have any faith in him. I tried to be gentle and approach the topic by asking if he was serious about wanting to get his degree. He also said he might not register for this semester because his dad is going through so much financial hardship and said I was accusing him of being lazy. I asked him why doesn't he try to pitch in for his tuition. One semester at the school he wants to go to is around $1,200, which is definitely achievable with a full-time job and no living expenses to pay. He then accused me of not being an unconditionally supportive partner. To add to this, he doesn't have credit or a driver's license, so it's getting more and more difficult for me to see a future with him. There was a 4-month period of time where he could have worked and saved for school, but he stayed unemployed until I cracked down and told him that he needs to start saving if our vacation is going to happen in a few months. Even then, at the time, he wasn't able to pay for his portion, and I had to buy his plane ticket and cover the hotel costs. I'm still waiting for him to pay me back for that, by the way. This would all be fine to me if we were 21 years old, but being 25, working part-time, and putting in no effort into advancing his career is not cute to me. Should I break up with him, or should I give him more time and be a little more understanding? What should I do? It does not sound like this guy has anything together in his life. It seems like this guy made some plans without actually setting any goals. One of those goals has to be having a job and making money, or even just making small steps to get to where he wants to go. It's one thing to say, yeah, I'm going to go back to school in the fall, but it's another thing to say, oh, I'm going to get my driver's license to be able to do this. By the way, I'm 25 years old. It seems like he's got his priorities mixed up and he's super sensitive about his girlfriend calling him on it, which isn't fair for the girlfriend because she's honestly just trying to help. And plus, it sounds like this guy's been using her as a piggy bank for about a year now. So it really is time for him to get up and start going. So in my opinion, if you think it's worth it, give him another chance. See if you can help him set some solid goals where he can actually get his driver's license, get some money, and get back to school. Otherwise, he's just going to stay in a lazy state, and I honestly don't see things changing for the better without a little bit of help. My girlfriend of 6 years confessed to me that she cheated on me, and I don't know what to do about it. My girlfriend works at a small cafe and is pretty close with her coworkers. There was one guy who we'll call Jim, that's not his actual name, that her other coworkers teased her about since the beginning, saying she would be cute with him, stuff along those lines. She told me about this and we laughed because it was so ridiculous, and they knew she was in a relationship. Fast forward a few months, and he doesn't work there anymore, as he was only a part-timer, so he wasn't there much anyways. For some background information, me and my girlfriend have always been extremely loyal loyal to each other. We've had an overall healthy relationship, and we've been great about communication. We are best friends, and we have been really content with each other. We resolve any issue that we have with each other all of the time. So this came to a giant surprise to me. One of her coworkers is seemingly toxic. At least that's from what I've been told by my girlfriend. I'll call this coworker Jenny. This is also not her real name. She's 21 years old, and she's a girl who likes to party and do illegal substances, as well as hook up with guys, if you know what I mean. My girlfriend had been warned about this girl from other friends because they said she's fake. My girlfriend stayed on good terms with Jenny since they were coworkers and would sometimes hang out with her at bars or at house parties. Anyways, my girlfriend had a birthday party at a bar about a month ago. It was a party where she invited all of her coworkers. I didn't go because I didn't know her coworkers, and my girlfriend implied that it would be awkward because I don't know them. I wanted to go, but I just took my girlfriend's word for it because I trust her, and I'm not super into socializing anyway, so it kind of worked out. I had fallen asleep and she came home around 2 o'clock in the morning. She went to bed and things were fine. She wakes up early, hungover, and tells me she made a mistake. I start getting anxiety because I knew exactly what she meant. She told me she kissed somebody at the bar, and that's the only detail she had given me. Later that day, she confessed that it was with her old coworker, Jim, the one she had been teased about previously, and she has known him for like a year at this point. I was insanely hurt. She is not that kind of girl, and I was super surprised this had even happened. She gave me more details about Jim, and apparently he had flirted with her a handful of times, both at work parties and at work in general. She told me that he showed up at the party and then things just went from there. And honestly, I believed her. After having my doubts about what she said, I ended up looking at her phone for a solid 2 minutes. I looked at the messages between my girlfriend and Jenny because I had my suspicions about this girl, and I am pretty glad I did. I found out that my girlfriend actually invited Jim to her party at the bar. Jenny had told her to invite him, so my girlfriend did it. She was saying things like, "He said yes, I'm so nervous, I'm so excited," stuff along those lines. So essentially, what I'm thinking is, I was lied to about the entire situation to save my feelings. Once I confronted her for these texts, she was so regretful and really upset about what she did. She cried and apologized over 100 times and talked about how I'm the only guy she ever wants. I know it was wrong of me to look in her phone, but I had a gut feeling something was off with this entire situation. I know she regrets what she did so much, and it's hard to see her upset, but I am deeply hurt by what she did. It's not even the kiss itself, it's the deception and lying to my face and planning something behind my back that hurts the most. We have had a great relationship, and it is really upsetting to see what it has become. We've talked so many times about this situation, and she has pleaded for my forgiveness, but this is not the first time she has hurt me. She hasn't cheated in the past, but she has done some things that have made me feel betrayed by her, and this whole situation in general honestly just sucks. This situation does suck because it sounds like the girlfriend was excited to cheat on you. It's like she's saying that you're the only guy that she wants to be with, but then she does stuff like that in the text message, saying how excited she is to see this other guy and she's so nervous. Like if she was loyal to you, she wouldn't be excited and or nervous or even invite this guy in the first place. Unfortunately, I honestly think you've been played, and that's really unfortunate. And it sounds like she only regrets this after the fact that you found out. I'm really sorry this happened, but you know what? You're gonna find someone who's not gonna cheat on you and is gonna love you for who you are. And in complete contrast to this lady, you'll have someone who's excited to be with you and not with somebody else. My mother used my illness as a way to gain social clout. About 6 months ago now, I had a life-changing surgery. After a year of debilitating symptoms, as well as the threat of no longer being alive, I had a whole body part removed. Recovery has been rough, but I'm getting better every day. It's worth mentioning that, though I suppose that the reason why my illness got so bad is because it went untreated for 9 years. I developed it in childhood, but my parents couldn't be bothered to take me to a doctor. I learned to live with it, and then it became life-threatening. I love my parents, but they are flawed people. They did express guilt over the situation, but ultimately justified it to themselves, even though the signs were pretty obvious that something was wrong. My mom especially, I guess, wanted to preserve her pride, as well as her image as a loving mother. And before my surgery, while I was still just trying to survive day to day, she made a support group for me online. According to her, it was pretty active, and it was full of people giving their condolences and words of encouragement for our family. But then again, how could I actually know? She never actually let me join this group. From what I can gather, it was a space for my mom to give updates on my condition, talk about what the family was going through, and all of that. But she really made the group to support herself, to basically explain what she was going through, as well as how hard my illness was on her. For context, I don't even live with her. I didn't even want her visiting me in the hospital and lied to her about how many visitors I was allowed to have to make her stop coming. She tried to butt ahead of a visitor that I actually did want there, and I had to have the hospital keep away anyone who wasn't my chosen visitor just to stop her. I did send her a picture of me, looking god-awful by the way, giving the thumbs up when I was right out of surgery, and also while I was stocked full of painkillers, and that was a mistake. That photo made it to the support group without my permission, so like God knows what else was posted there. Again, I was never even allowed to see it. My mother has always been super self-centered. This isn't the first time she's used me as a prop for her own social clout. I'm very used to it, and I'm getting better at practicing my boundaries with her, but this time I clearly made a mistake even letting her into my life. This mom does not sound like a very good person. I mean, honestly, how bad of a parent can you possibly be where you neglect your child so much that eventually your kid loses a limb because of your negligence? I mean, that's insane to me. And then while they are recovering in the hospital, you use their image, their likeness, and basically use them in general as a way to gain social status. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I honestly feel very bad for the original poster here because they're already going through a lot as it is, and the last thing they need is their entitled mother to use them in this way, which is just absolutely disgusting. My parents are trying to control my dating life. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I recently met this guy on Bumble. We uninstalled the app 2 weeks in, and we have been exclusively dating for almost 3 months. Everything is going great. We are both open and transparent, and it's been the best almost 3 months after being single for 5 years. I work as a lawyer, and I live with my parents. We're Southeast Asian, and they're religious boomers. For context, they think martial law is the best thing that happened to our country. I'm an overachiever, and okay, one point in college, I let my mom talk me out of a great relationship I had so she could introduce me to a family friend who I dated for 3 years. And guess what? They turned out to be a psychopath. I told my parents about the first date out of respect, and because at 30, I thought they had no reason to try and stop me from dating. My boyfriend works at a call center business ever since he got laid off due to the pandemic. We have fairly the same upbringing, and I thought this would please my parents. Right off the bat, my parents hated him and thought I was dating beneath me. I've had to make up excuses to keep dating him, and my parents seem to think I'm disrespecting them and throwing away my life for this guy. I personally don't think I am. They're just very materialistic. They've refused to listen to me about why I like him, and when I do, they're saying I'm defending him. I'm honestly not asking for their permission, but I do hope they come to terms with the fact that it's my dating life and I get to choose my partner, especially because I'm an adult and 30 years old. I don't want to come to a point where they disown me or I have to move out. I am supporting them by paying the bills. They're also expecting me to support my brother who didn't graduate from college and is unemployed. What should I do? I think you have it right. You need to explain to them that guess what? This is your dating life. And the last time you followed their advice, you ended up dating a psychopath for 3 years that they recommended. It's really weird that they would say you can't date this guy because he doesn't have enough money. Like there's so much more to a relationship than money. And if you're happy with this person, then I say just continue to date them. Your family does not and should not dictate your life in this way. I think also you're 30 years old and I don't know if there's maybe some cultural differences that I'm not aware of, but it would probably really benefit you to get your own place. I think maybe this way the cycle will be broken and they won't have such a foothold in your life. You can still have them in your life, obviously, but then they won't be right up in your business deciding who you can and can't date. And no, you don't need to ask for their permission. If this is what makes them disown you, then man, this is a very fragile relationship if you really look at it. I think you have a good head on your shoulders. I think you're doing this right. And I think you honestly just want to keep the peace from the sounds of it. So I would say keep going and maybe your parents will come around. You never know. They could end up really liking your current boyfriend. Today I messed up by deadlifting my bag at an airport and almost getting detained by the TSA. I've been a powerlifter for a few years now. Whenever I go traveling for significant periods of time, I generally take some lifting equipment with me, including squat shoes, lifting belt, gym chalk, and protein powder. I should add that I don't really look like a powerlifter either. I have no visible muscle and I weigh like 95 pounds at 5'3". So anyways, my boyfriend and I are going through airport security and he grabs me really rough and suddenly to get me out of the way of someone's swinging suitcase. I see TSA look at us a little more closely, but don't think anything of it. Then we get stopped because our bags contain chalk and protein powder, so they needed to go through our bags. Also noteworthy, I'm wearing a crop top, and I guess it came up a bit while my arms were raised while going through security. There is a couple of large bruises above my abdomen where I brace against my lifting belt while deadlifting. So the same TSA agent asked me to come with her, and once we're far enough away from everyone else, She asks me if I'm safe, or if I'm even being held against my will, and if there's someone she should call for me. I'm really confused and kind of nervous at this point, but I tell her nothing is wrong. She noted how my boyfriend had grabbed me earlier. I told her he was moving me out of the way of someone else's suitcase. Then she mentions the bruises above my stomach, and I say, oh, no worries, that's just belt marks. She looks even more alarmed at that, and I think she called for backup. I hang out with so many gym rats that I forgot normal people don't associate belt with lifting. The combination of random powders in my suitcase, plus the bruises, plus the grabbing had set off this woman's alarms, and I think that she thought that I was in some kind of sketchy situation. I quickly realized my mistake, and I tried to explain that I'm a power lifter, and that the belt mark was from a lifting belt. I don't think they quite bought this explanation at first, and I see a few more security agents approaching us, as well as my boyfriend. I'm a little panicked because I don't want to cause a scene or seem more suspicious when we had never actually done anything wrong. The TSA lady tells me if I need help to just let her know and she would keep us separated. So my brilliant idea was to get into a deadlift position and deadlift my 5-pound backpack. I don't really know what I was thinking at this point, but thankfully at this point, the TSA had finished testing the protein powder as well as the chalk and had verified that it was not anything suspicious or illegal, so they let us go. When I told my boyfriend about this, we both laughed uncontrollably. But I think next time we're not going to bring protein powder or chalk with us to the airport, just to be safe. That's actually a really funny situation because maybe these TSA agents are actually trained to look out for these situations. And the fact that your boyfriend moved you out of the way, as well as the chalk and the suspicious powder in your bags, most definitely hit all the marks in this lady's mind that, oh no, this is a sketchy situation, and I definitely need to intervene. It's really sweet though that they did intervene though. That's really cool. I didn't know that the TSA would look out for these types of situations and would try to approach and try and help out. I guess it makes sense considering all the things they do already in terms of keeping people safe and trying to screen all the people that get on planes as well as their baggage. So yeah, I agree with the original poster. Next time, leave the chalk as well as the protein powder, because next time you might not have your 5-pound carry-on that you can deadlift to prove your innocence. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.